I'm trying to schedule an acupuncture appointment for myself while I do this.
Hell yeah.
East.
Yeah, just talk through it so Ben can get the levels.
Okay, East Village Acupuncture and Massage. Massagee?
See, I'm just a massage guy.
Yeah,
I'm just
but
kind of like,
you
massages are great. I don't need someone to do acupuncture
I
on me
need
because I'm
someone.
already so happy with the massage.
This is a different thing. What the fuck
I
is
understand.
electroacupuncture?
Dude, that's a thing.
What is it?
I don't know. It's like them putting speaker wires into you. You know what I mean? Like it's acupuncture, but
That
with these
sounds
things that are
crazy.
plugged into something.
Do you need me to keep talking?
Oh, no, I'm all set.
Great. Let's just go.
Any
Okay.
staff? Okay, wait. I'm almost done picking.
You're
yeah.
booking your appointment.
Do you think I'll be able to make a 3:15 acupuncture?
Where is your acupuncture?
East Village.
I think we can.
Okay, well, let's go.
Yeah,
Let's go.
2:45. That gives us time to talk for 2 hours.
Look,
this could be a short episode.
I
for us.
love it. I love it.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll get you out of here.
Let's
it's
do it.
fine.
Yeah. Okay, ready?
Blank check with Griffin and David. Blank check with Griffin and David. Don't know what to say or to expect. All you need to know is that the name of the show is Blank Check.
What Jefferson was saying was, hey, we left this podcast because it was bogus. So if we don't get some cool rules ourselves pronto, we'll just be bogus too. I really fucked that up.
Did you? I mean, it seemed fine to me.
I feel like I went very generic. I think part of the magic of his performance
Spicoli is right. It's actually less.
there is a
generic than you.
specificity to the way he plays this that still makes this the funniest version of this archetype, I would argue.
I would agree.
And
you don't have to argue, Griffin.
I did the off the rack version. I couldn't get there.
You know who Mr. Hand is, right?
Ray Walston, what do you mean? Who it's
Yeah,
based
like-
on?
No, just like you know who Ray Walston is, right?
My favorite
Yeah,
Martian.
there you go.
Yeah.
And a great musical theater actor, like one of the legends of Broadway.
Popeye's dad?
Is he Popeye's dad?
Yeah,
oh,
he's
in the
Poop Deck
movie.
Pappy.
Oh yeah, sure.
And Robert
That's
Altman's
wonderful.
Popeye.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
I did not know that. And I did read the trivia last night.
For this
just,
movie.
Just
Yeah.
because I wanted to one up you.
Wow.
You'll fail.
I know.
We have
I know.
researchers. It's
This is
we're
the thing.
a whole
This is
thing
now a very tight operation. I don't know if you know
Jesus.
this. You have now broken the record for the longest gap between appearances on this podcast.
Well, Lola and I discussed this before.
Many
you showed
things
up.
have
You were
changed
late.
since the last time you were on. I was getting Lola T
This
because
is the
she's
whole
sick.
thing. No. Okay, and we actually have an episode to get to.
I'm
but-
not sick. Don't say that yet.
Lola's not sick yet.
I'm not sick.
Griffin's
Yeah.
whole thing now is that for some reason, and Ben and I were just discussing this, he's the one who picks up coffee even though he's chronically late.
I
as
have
it
to push
is.
back on this.
No.
Lately, yes, I do. Lately, I've been having Ben pick up the coffee so I can get here early. And that has been working. I've been getting here early and Ben shows up with the coffee. If you check the records, this is a fact.
You were late the last couple of recordings.
But early
sure.
for you is 15 minutes late.
No,
On
no,
time
no,
for him is
no,
15 minutes.
No. This was the last one before this. I was late.
Yes,
the
you
last
were.
several before this, I was here early
Fair
and
enough.
Ben picked up the coffee. That is correct. I had placed the order. I was going to be on time. I asked Lo if she wanted anything. She said no. And then she said, would you mind getting me a tea? I had to add on to
It's
the
So
true.
order.
now
It's
it's
true.
our guest's
I
fault. We get a great,
am
cool
just
celebrity in the
saying.
room. 2 minutes into recording, you're
I'm just
throwing her
saying.
under the
Look,
bus.
she's
Under
not
the
sick
bus.
yet, but I did a very kind thing.
It's
do you,
true.
Do you know what the poster tagline for this film was? The original.
The original poster tagline was the list of the 12 bands on the soundtrack at the bottom of the poster.
I mean, that's probably true because they are down there. But no, it's at Ridgemont High, only the rules get busted, which is one of those things that I'm like, that sounds clever, but I don't actually know what that means.
no, the other posters to this movie are also insane.
Like, you can kind of tell they don't really know how to tell you what this movie is, apart from like, it's a teen movie with a surfing stoner in
yes,
it. Like,
we'll get into it, but the fact that Universal was afraid to release this because they were like, is this borderline pornography?
right.
And then meanwhile, they were selling it like it was every other sex comedy of the 80s is fascinating. That they were like terrified of it and also trying to sell it as the thing that was de rigueur. Like there were 40 movies a week in which a guy put his dick somewhere weird and America cheered and it made $100 million. And then this one, they were like, this might be illegal.
We'll talk about it.
Yeah.
What's this episode? What's this podcast? We have a lot to set up.
We have a
Jeez.
lot to set up. This is Blank Check with Griffin and David. I'm
Yes.
Griffin.
I'm David.
It's a podcast about filmographies, directors, experienced a series of massive success early on in their career and are given, I said series too early, a series of blank checks, make whatever crazy passion projects they want, and sometimes those checks clear and sometimes they bounce, baby. I have found that 10 years in, I'm having a harder time remembering the intro.
It's sick. We should just stop. Let's just
All
not-
of it?
Let's just no. We'll do the podcast, but forget the intro.
Okay, well,
Just like, it's blank check. Google it.
what if I go back to doing a serial parody for the intro?
Oh, no, thank you.
This is blank check, one director, told in my name parts.
What is
Ooh,
this
sexy.
miniseries, Griffin?
you.
Because I'm realizing I don't think we discussed the title.
Pod Times at Ridgemont Cast. I'm shooting off the hip here.
I liked it.
Thank you. Lola laughed. Pod Times at Ridgemont Cast.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. It's fine. I'm going to say it. I think that's almost kind of route one for us at this point.
Okay, so look who's podcasting too.
I think that's funny. I just want to say that's
Well, that
exactly
makes
what I was going to
sense.
suggest.
That
I
makes
think
sense.
It is funny because it makes a weird amount of sense, but then the two
Yeah,
kind of undercuts it.
right. Because the other option is Pod Who's Casting too.
No.
No.
Look who's
I thought about
podcasting
that.
too
Okay.
is genius because everyone has a podcast. I mean,
It's
you guys
genius.
obviously had the first podcast.
No,
but-
look, we did. It was
Pod
Conan
Times
and
at
us at the
Ridgemont
same
Cast
time.
is fine. There's nothing wrong with
Here's
it
what
for
I'm trying to
us.
balance. Pod Times at Richmond Cast got an earnest laugh out of Lola, but then Look
Because
Who's
it's funny.
Podcasting too got a that's genius. And I'm like, which is more valuable? Do we want to be smart or funny? This is the eternal battle of this show. Is it
But
not?
wait, are they not? Did Amy Heckerling direct Look
Correct.
Who's Talking?
Yes.
Oh, I thought that was the little one. Oh no, that's Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Yes.
Got it.
She did the Look Who's Talking 1 and 2 and then handed off 3.
I think Pod Times at Ridgemont Cast is better.
Okay.
Oh, now she's back to pod. Oh, well, you know what? We'll discuss this later.
We'll
Those are the
discuss
two
this
options.
later. But this is the start of a miniseries on Amy Heckerling.
Well, I'm honored to be here.
And a career that starts with an out-of-the-box masterpiece. We've discussed this before, the different types of career starters we cover on this show as people who are obsessive completists. This is like she just fucking nails it first tryout.
Absolutely true. I think she nails it very much. But yeah, an interesting sort of way to think about her career. Like, is it a problem to start with arguably your best movie? Not in my opinion, but like arguably your best movie, tough to top. Sets you up for a sophomore slump.
We'll talk about it. I give her a lot of credit for this movie. This
Yes.
is also one of those magical movies where it's just like all the elements
Bit of a
came
magic
together.
movie, right? Where
Right.
like all the cast is so
Right.
perfect.
I think
and-
the thing that pushes it over the edge is like her judgment and skill and taste. But to your point, it being like Nicolas Cage is in 2 shots of this movie.
he is
Like, this is just a film where you think about the people who are on this set every day and like the energy of just like some people who would dominate the culture for decades who are all coming in with like, I'm rearing to go. I'm ready to prove myself.
now we are all too young for this movie.
Correct.
Right? We all discovered this movie. It was already an established thing, right?
We
You
were
know, it's not-
born
we didn't
into a
see this
Fast
film
Times
in
culture.
theaters. Right,
Yes.
exactly.
But I watched this movie like once a week on
Mm-hmm.
a portable DVD player for the entirety of high school.
I was going to say, when let's say our guest today
Oh.
returned to the show for the first time in 8 years.
A long time.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Since What Women Want.
I love that movie.
Yes, a film you sold me on. Lola Kirk, musician, author, actress. We're experiencing the 2025 year of Lola. We were talking about publishing your first book,
Yeah.
releasing your 3rd album,
Yeah.
and your triumphant return.
Yeah, my triumphant return to the screen after
the
no
big
one would
screen.
give me a job for a few years.
Hey, that's my life.
Yeah.
I understand that beat. Being like, maybe I'm retired. Does it have anything to do with no one wanting to hire you? No, I think it's unrelated.
No, absolutely not. It
I made a
was
choice. I made a really strong choice here.
a really strong choice
Yeah.
not to work until someone gave me a job again.
Sinners,
Yeah,
new
Sinners.
Ryan
and-
Coogler movie.
That's it. What, March? Coming out in March, I believe.
It's now April 18th.
Oh, now April.
Okay.
Right, it's swapped with Mickey 17, so it's now April 25.
right around the time of this episode. Am I wrong?
Absolutely. This
Yes.
episode
Look at that.
is dropping on April 27th. So, Sinners has been out for a week.
Oh,
Wow.
It just opened.
burning up the
Wow.
box office.
I hope it's good.
I hope so, too.
Lola Kirk.
What's up?
Now, to your point, we grew up together,
Mm-hmm.
went to high school together. I threw you, hey, it's been too long since you've been on. Here's a long list of things. Your immediate response was, well, Fast Times is basically my favorite movie of all time. And it felt very apropos just because I feel like a lot of our high school was us watching this canon of movies obsessively over and over again. I feel like that is one of many things we bonded on, was just like an obsession with 80s teen movies.
Yeah.
Yes. Lola's getting emotional.
I am getting emotional, but also because I feel like one of the things I was thinking as I watched it last night
Mhm.
was like, what are teenagers watching now? Like, I saw
a
this
very good
movie
question.
in the I used to read things when I was younger, like
Same.
the lists, like you need to listen to these
The
records.
10 best,
This
the
is-
10,
right.
20 best. Yes,
and
me
this
too.
was
This is
on that
the
list.
cornerstone of our podcast, and also basically you are speaking directly to the experience of every one of our listeners.
I guess
who
it's
are
just like
other obsessive
millennial.
magazine
Okay,
list
yeah.
people. Yes.
Nerdy. Oh, I thought it was just millennials, but like nerds.
Yes,
But
no,
yeah.
less generationally and more that type of brain of
Sure.
like, I need to know what the canon is.
Yeah, I wanted to know
Yes,
what
in
was
all
going
these
on.
different corners. Yeah.
And this movie was like the one that it just was talked about over and over again. And I was like, I need to obviously see it.
Yeah.
And once I saw it, I fell so in love with it. And it was kind of sad because I haven't seen it since I used to watch it all the time. And the perspective that I had as like a 34-year-old woman who had gone through all of those things and was now like old enough to, if I had been really young to have those people be my own children, versus the perspective that I had as a kid that was like, okay, she had sex at 15, so that means that's when I should do it. And like all of these other things that I like wanted to be like them.
I think we both had the exact same thing, was we viewed these movies as aspirational.
Yeah.
And I think part of it was we had this like very like fucking bespoke, precious, privileged New York childhood that did not resemble these teen movies.
Oh
and
my
it
God,
felt like
yes, absolutely.
this is the normal teen experience I'm not getting and I should be experiencing.
And yet, I didn't notice this in the when I first saw it. But when Jennifer Jason Leigh loses her virginity to Ron Johnson, the way that Amy Heckerling shoots the ceiling and
Yes.
shoots her POV,
It's very, very
which
important.
I didn't
Yep.
even notice
Yeah.
then. I was just like, oh my God, she's having sex. And that guy looks like Richard Gere, even though the Richard Gere I knew was like really old.
Uh-huh.
I was like, no, he doesn't.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was like, oh, right. There is a sensitivity to these kids' experiences that I never understood.
It is what is crazy about this movie and what makes it like such a kind of miracle film is I watched it in the same context as you. I was like, this is the movie that all the quotes come from, which is like a real flattening of what this movie is. And yet I probably watched it for the first time at 12 and was like, funny, good, liked it. Wasn't like, I don't get what the fuck's going on here. And
Oh,
then every
interesting.
time I've seen it since then, it like deepens for me. It is a movie that kind of works from all perspectives.
Mm.
And we had our friend Tim Simons on the show recently, and we told him we were getting ready to do this series next.
Mm.
And he was like, Fast Times is one of those movies I haven't seen, but I feel like I've seen through cultural osmosis.
Sure.
And was like, I know all the quotes
That-
and the memes.
Yeah, that was my experience with this movie. Where
Right.
I had seen scenes probably, and I knew about Spicoli and all that, but then I watched the movie and was shocked by it.
The mastery of this film is that it is both of those things. That it's not one of those like, well, people quote the four things, but actually the movie's much more this in tone. In the way we always talk about like Saturday Night Fever, right?
Yeah.
Where you're like, it gets reduced to 3 images and then most of the movie is like a pretty...
Right. Well, Saturday Night
dark
Fever is an
character set.
even more extreme, right? Where you watch
Right.
it and you're like, oh, these people are not only is this movie lurid and violent
Yes.
and upsetting, but these people are sad. It's about how sad they are.
Right.
It's not about cool people. They're kind of cool, like they're dancing,
But
but
the
like
culture
they're-
flattens it to like 2 dance scenes, walking with the pizza and
Right.
the Bee Gees soundtrack. Whereas this movie, you're not wrong if your perception is it's Spicoli, it's got big lines, it's got huge characters, but then it's simultaneously holding this other thing.
I think you're wrong if you think that.
I'm
I'm going to say you're wrong.
What I think, this is my framework of my argument for the value of this movie, is that like I think there is an insane simultaneous managing of tones that Heckerling is pulling off on this that defies logic. That like this movie should not be able to cross-cut between Spicoli and Jennifer Jason Leigh,
Yeah.
let alone
Yeah.
have them exist in the same shot.
But that's life as a teen, baby.
Totally. That's the
That's
magic.
why
of
it's so good.
it. Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Amy Heckerling's 1982 film. Any of you ever read the book by Cameron Crowe?
No, I didn't even remember that it was a book
So
until I
It
IMDb trivia'd
is
it.
so out of print that it costs $500, $600 to buy like a used copy of it.
Damn.
And Griff has it.
I got it for 90. You want to know why?
I don't.
Because the
you're
cover's
cool?
misprinted.
You got a weird.
The title's like sliding off.
I have an original copy of it that
Yeah.
I stole. I
Mm.
will say
From?
I was at a family member's house in California. It's a long story, and I won't tell it. But we
Wow.
were staying there. And like all their kids were grown up at this point in their 30s or what,
Mhm.
but it was their house that they all grew up in. And I was staying in one of the kids' bedrooms, and I saw it on the shelf, and I took it and I read it, and I was like, I took it home with me. So I guess I didn't.
Do they listen to this podcast, your family?
I would be stunned to
Does
to
a
learn that
single
they
member
listen.
of your family listen to this podcast?
That's actually a really good question.
Joey doesn't listen regularly, right?
My brother
He has listened.
I think my brother occasionally listens. That might be that.
My mom's become a regular listener, which sucks.
Oh,
Hi.
It used to be a sometimes thing, and now I'm like, she's hearing everything I say. Like me saying, it sucks that she listens.
Well, I
think
mean,
she's probably hearing
Anyway.
right now.
my mom sees my Instagram and it makes me want to die. So I
Yeah.
can't imagine, anything more in depth.
Yes, yes.
Fast Times at Ridgemont High. It's
Fast
written
Times at
by
Ridgemont High.
Cameron Crowe,
Yeah.
obviously. So it's his Launchpad too. It's a Launchpad for a lot of people.
Mhm.
But it
So Cameron Crowe was doing this before he was doing the stuff he did in Almost Famous.
It's
well,
after.
it's after.
That's the weird timeline. Is
Because
basically
he never been kissed it and went back to high
correct.
school.
Never
Yeah,
been
yeah.
kissed
That's
it
the
based
origin
on
of this
this.
movie,
Yes,
right?
correct.
Is that he doesn't have a high school experience because he goes on the road as a music journalist.
He was
Yeah.
he was 22 when he enrolled in high. I told my wife this. I told Forky this. She'd
You
never
can't-
seen.
It almost breaks
She
your
was like,
brain
"That
to be like,
sounds, like,
that's what this
awful."
movie comes out of.
I was like, yeah, I guess if someone did that now,
Yeah.
that would not be greeted
But
with
was
like
he
handshakes and
undercover
high
or
fives.
he just went
Correct.
back?
He was the school was aware of who he was, but I guess the kids weren't.
Right.
He was 22 years old, and he sort of approached the school being like, "Can I quote unquote enroll?"
But you look at the photo on the back cover. And
He
you're
had a
just
baby
like,
face.
He looks like
he could
16.
blend in, right?
And he was also, I think, perhaps a little developmentally stunted from being on the road and
Sure,
not
right.
experiencing these things.
But
it's
yeah,
like-
no, it's not like if I wrote a book now that I was like, yeah, I hung out with a bunch of high schoolers, people would be like, "The fuck is the matter with
Totally.
you doing that?" Anyway.
But also, like, the
Different
framework
time.
of the book not being like, this is what I found going undercover, like making himself the main character.
no, it's
That it is
just vignettes.
like, it's vignettes. It is just
Yes.
observation, which is obviously Cameron Crowe's kind of superpower. And then for the movie to also not go for the high concept hook of young-faced reporter.
right for him to not be a character in the movie. Thank
You
God.
could just imagine Hollywood, even if he avoided that in the book, that Hollywood was like salivating and being like, oh my God, the premise is Tom Cruise goes
Well,
undercover.
they were salivating. They made Never Been Kissed.
Yes.
They eventually
Yeah.
did just make that movie.
Yeah.
Amy I. Heckerling, however, is here. We're here to talk about.
Okay.
Born 1954 in the Bronx,
Mhm.
in an apartment building where most of her, she says, neighbors were like
Holocaust survivors.
Holocaust survivors.
Yeah.
It's, her grandparents had relatives who've been in concentration camps. There were lots of Jewish immigration to the Bronx, whatever, at the time, and that's, she probably lived on Grand Concourse the way she's describing it. My father and mother, both accountants,
Mhm.
spent a lot of her youth in Brooklyn with her grandma. Her mom was basically a teenager when she was born. She had a younger brother, so she was shuffled around. She liked Brooklyn a lot more. She lived near Coney Island. She loved movies. She loved gangster movies.
Or the grandmother lived near Coney
That's
Island.
what-
who
you know,
would go
she liked
visit.
going to
Yes,
Brooklyn for this
yes,
reason.
Yes.
She liked musicals. She liked James Cagney and Fred
She
Astaire.
was really into Golden Age Hollywood
Yes.
stuff.
And then
Yeah.
as a teenager, obviously, she's being exposed to like Mean Streets and Clockwork Orange and all these new Hollywood movies. So she's really into all of that. She has wow, this is a long dossier. Okay.
I'll say there's JJ put a lot in here.
Yes.
This Cagney section we might circle back to.
Yeah, we'll get
in
back
our
to that for
next
Johnny
episode.
Dangerously.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Have
Have you ever seen Johnny Dangerously,
No.
Lola? Her follow up to this is she basically makes a Mel Brooks movie that's a parody of gangster movies.
Right.
Well,
With
It is
Michael
one of
Keaton.
the which I think rules, but it is like a wild swerve into like full cartoon mode, like gag a minute movie.
When she's a teenager, she moves to Queens. She hit all the boroughs.
Hey.
When she's 14, she goes to high school at the High School of Art and Design in Manhattan, starts hanging out at the Museum of Modern Art. And, she's just whatever. Art is in her bones. She's into all that
I mean,
stuff.
this is the other funny part of this movie is it is made by two people who basically didn't have this experience, right? That like
Who
Heckerling
are
has
not like California surfer
Heckerling's a city
stoned
kid,
kids. Yeah.
and Cameron Crowe doesn't really go to high school until he's an adult. I think it's It's part of like them being very intuitive and observant, but also having a little bit of distance.
Well, I also feel like that's like some testament to the idea that you have to be a little bit of a freak to be a real artist.
Yeah.
Like, could you make a movie? I don't know, if you have this kind of more regular experience, not that there aren't amazing artists that come from totally
Mhm.
regular lives, but I mean, most of them are also, I mean, a lot of them are freaks.
Yeah, yes. And at least, you know, the byproduct of some weird perspective.
She goes to
Yes.
NYU film school,
Mhm.
starts making weird student films that are, she says, sort of like 1930s musicals, but, you know, with hippie vibes.
She's doing postmodern riffs on the old Hollywood movies she loves.
And
Blazing
she
Saddles was a big activator
Right.
for her.
meets Martin Brest,
Mhm.
who I think we briefly mentioned this when we did his miniseries.
There is a nice kind
and
of
dates
chain
him briefly.
hand holding between this series, the Lynch series, and the Martin Brest series, weirdly.
Yes,
They're all connected.
right, because David Lynch was the original choice to direct this movie, or a choice to direct this movie, which is crazy to think about.
But also Martin
Um,
Brest and Amy Heckerling are like the cool kids who are
Yes.
on and off dating and become friends with
She-
Stuart Kornfeld, who is an AFI student who later becomes Mel Brooks's producing partner and hires Brooks to do Elephant Man. But he also kind of helps both of their careers. And he is Judge Reinhold's boss in this at the pirate.
Oh.
What an asshole! Oh, it's the
Oh,
pirate
oh,
thing.
it's
Well,
the
Yes,
what
the
an
one-
asshole.
He's the one who tells him to keep the uniform
Yeah.
on. But he's this
Um,
quiet figure who passed away a couple years ago who kind of like links a lot of American 80s film.
So she follows Marty Brest to AFI to
Mhm.
LA.
Yes.
They both go to LA. They break up. She really hates LA. She hates that she can't get around at all. She's like a New York City kid. She hates how it all works. She doesn't know how to drive. Martin Brest tried to teach her and failed, apparently.
Mhm.
Eventually, she figured it out.
JJ
Heckerling.
relayed this to me as a note of solidarity and consolation that Amy Heckerling failed her driver's test 5 times.
Do you have your license yet,
No,
Griffin?
of course not. What the fuck are you talking
Lola,
about?
can you drive?
Of course.
Of course she can.
So can I. Ben?
Yeah.
3
I can
drivers in
drive.
the room.
Ben's keeping his
Uh,
sunglasses on this episode because he said it matches the vibe.
Heckerling.
You gotta.
He's also
Quote.
maybe still recovering from his.
Yeah,
Concussion.
she hates LA. So she finds AFI very elitist. She
Oh,
hates
just-
that it's a big
I
mansion on
just
the
want to say
hill.
another thing to pin as interesting when we get around to Clueless,
Yeah, no, 100%.
which is Clueless making a movie with compassion about the opposite of the person she is.
Mm.
That's true. And
That she
for these
came
rich
to
people
be
who
like,
live on
they
the hill.
seem, it must be nice to have that view on life.
Mm.
Yeah, it has compassion, but also Clueless is a social satire.
It's both.
It's yeah, okay.
I mean,
Anyway,
this is the magic of what she's good at.
so her thesis film, she makes a movie called Getting It Over With about a girl who just wants to lose her virginity before she turns 20.
Mhm.
She struggles to finish it because it's fucking hard, especially back then, to make your student movie. She gets in a car accident. That messes with her.
1 point for Griff for not driving.
She really does seem to hate cars. And the president of Universal sees her short, wants to work with her.
Mhm.
She's like, I'm fucking sitting in my apartment in Hollywood. I got no money and no car. I don't know what to do. I've like got to go to physical therapy because I was in this accident. Tom Mount from Universal calls and says, like, get an agent because I want to work with you.
This is also just, let's just say,
This is so unusual for like a female filmmaker in like the 70s, like the
Absolutely.
early 80s, whenever this is.
look,
you know.
there was this argument that gets repeated a lot quietly that like when the last 10 years people are like, it's finally gotten good for female directors. And it's like, no, it's finally like getting back to kind of where it was in the 80s. It was better in the 80s than it was before that and after that for 30 years. Where like it wasn't great. It was still disproportionate, but there were a lot more like young female filmmakers getting to make stuff within the studio system in the 1980s.
She's trying to make this movie called My Kind of Guy.
Okay.
Warner Brothers is interested. She calls it a female version of Carnal Knowledge.
Mhm.
They
Oh.
like the idea, but then like whatever. There's an executive shift. The project dies. She shops it around. No one will approve it. There was only one woman making profitable movies in Hollywood, and that was Barbara Streisand, is her
Yep.
quote.
Mhm.
It finally gets a home at MGM, but then an actor strike kills the project. And she's like, I don't know what to do.
I think the one thing to call out here is this is basically the second wave of film school students.
Yes,
Right?
sure.
Like,
It's
you've
becoming
had-
more of a professionalized thing. You can
And-
go
and
to film school.
There aren't that many of them. And if someone makes a good student film, the studios are actually just keenly paying attention to to what's coming out of these places because they're looking for new directors. Like the model has shifted from someone works their way up from being like a PA or an exec, works their way up the ranks within the studio and learns on the job to there are now film schools where people are coming out of a pipeline with a show reel and they can at least get into development meetings or whatever.
All right, moving on to Cameron Crowe.
Mhm.
We all know Cameron Crowe's story of teen sensation, becomes a Rolling Stone writer at like the age of fucking 15.
Yeah, we
writes,
covered it.
all this stuff.
Yeah.
And he decides when he's turned 22, like no one knows about the kids. No one's like written a book about the kids,
Mhm.
right? Everyone's trying to figure out what the kids like, but I'm going to go and hang out with the kids. And so he goes to the school that he attended for like some summer session once, Ridgemont Senior High in Redondo Beach, and walks in, tells the principal, I'm going to attend classes as like an inconspicuous presence in this school for a year. The principal allows this to happen. I don't really get how that's possible.
Mhm.
But then again, like, I don't know, like I'm watching this movie with my wife who's a teacher. And when they're, dissecting a cadaver in front of kids, she's like, this would never happen. And I'm like, maybe
Sure.
it did, though. Like, I feel like back in the day, teachers would just kind of be like, I'm going to do this.
I mean, where Griffin and I went to high school, they just hired a
Well, you-
convict to teach the children, and then he Me Too'd all the kids.
I'm aware of that because my wife also went to the same school.
Oh, who's your wife?
We're going to bleep it out, but he's going to say it.
I don't know if you know her.
That name sounds really familiar. Okay.
You definitely know her.
Yeah.
But we'll bleep it out the
Okay.
times we said it. But yes. David's keenly aware of how overly permissive our school was of everything.
Yeah, they kind of went a little too far in the old permissive.
Honestly,
Yeah.
it would be
spectrum.
a good show. It might be a little bit more Euphoria.
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
inevitable.
I think now it's become very Euphoria.
But like,
right?
right.
Oh, well, I feel
I
like
don't know.
kids, I feel like Euphoria, and I could be wrong, but Euphoria, the kids like have sex and do drugs. I thought kids didn't do that anymore.
Yeah,
Well, now the kids are all incels who hate porn and
Yeah.
right. They just play video games.
right.
I don't know.
Think movies with sex scenes should be arrested, that you should put handcuffs around the film reel.
What?
This is like a thing.
Who knows?
There's film reels?
All right.
Well, I took the
Okay.
joke into an abstract direction.
Okay.
but
I liked it.
So
there's
fast,
this whole argument of like, are sex scenes unethical? Because the characters aren't giving
Fast
consent
Times at
to be
Ridgemont
watched.
High. Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Insane.
Yeah. The book is already like hot stuff, and so the script
Sure.
is pretty much written immediately. Universal snaps up the option, and they throw it right to David Lynch,
Yeah.
right off of Elephant Man.
A really interesting.
Crow meets with him.
But like, look, when he takes the jump from Eraserhead to Elephant Man, people were like, I guess maybe he's just a guy who can do anything. And there were a lot of examples of like someone starts out making weirdo abstract art films and then they just get conventional.
Right.
Like George Lucas was kind of that narrative. So I think after Elephant Man was good, people were like, I don't know, maybe he can make any kind of movie. But he actually meets with them.
He meets with him and he says,
Yeah.
this is a great story. It's really great. It's just not the kind of thing I do, and good luck. And he apparently got into a white VW bug and drove away.
Cool.
Art Linson, who is a producer,
Mhm.
has seen Heckerling short and is like, this girl gets sex.
Mhm.
And let's face it, this is a movie about sex and she really gets it. And so that's why they take it to her and they pick her. The book blows Heckerling away. It had such reality to it, she says. You totally get into the kids' lives. And she goes to Crow and she's like, has tons of ideas. Crow says that she was like a European director who wanted to make like this raw movie, and like I guess no one else is probably coming to him with that
Sure.
take, right? Everyone else is probably trying to sell him on a conventional teen movie. This movie is very unconventional.
It is.
It does have main characters and it does
Mhm.
have a plot, sort of.
Kind of. It has narrative threads, clean arcs, and
It's like
Yeah.
half sketch, half
Yes.
narrative. And it has sympathetic characters, but it also has very unsympathetic characters.
Mhm.
And it just, obviously it just depicts life realistically, but then also has the most famous like whack off fantasy sex scene in a teen movie ever,
yes.
which is like a parody of it, but then it loops all the way back around to just being the fucking whack off teen fantasy
This
sex
is what I'm
scene.
saying, though. It's like this movie defies logic in how much it is all of these things
Wait,
simultaneously.
which is the fantasy
The
sex
Phoebe
scene?
Cates scene,
Cates.
like where it's like,
Oh,
like
I
that
call
is
that
clearly
just getting out the pool.
right, but like that is like a
Yeah.
parody of dumb teen 80s movies.
Got it.
Doing like, okay, now we'll have a scene with tits because like that's required of these movies.
I
But it
did
has-
rewatch it on the airplane last night in
Hell
the middle
yeah.
seat, and
Yeah.
I gotta say, I felt really
Got some
grown
neck
up
cranes?
because Well, I
The
was just
pilot
like-
came back to look over your shoulder.
Whoa.
But I thought people would be
dude.
like, maybe offended. And then I thought, I don't care. And that made me feel
it's
really
breasts.
happy. Finally. Yeah, it's boobs. And
Boobs,
what are
guys.
they watching? Everyone was watching the exact same thing last night, which was the Bills game.
It is crazy
Sure.
to me to
talk
think,
about pornography.
Yeah, talk about
depraved.
pornography.
Oh, come on. No, to think that like you used to go on a plane and the pilot would be like, our movie today is Home Alone 2.
Oh, yeah.
Like everyone would find out in real time what the movie was going to be. And you go
Right.
like, ah. And then there's just everyone looking at communal screens, the same movie that has been edited down for planes. And now you go to plane, people are just watching fucking whatever they
They're just
want.
fucking
Crazy.
throwing on a Serbian film.
Right, but that's the thing. You'll
I
like
know.
sit there and someone be sitting next to a kid and they'll be watching fucking Terrifier 3 or whatever.
I mean, I watched Nowhere on the airplane once, and that felt wrong.
Sure.
But I only watched it on the airplane because I'd always wanted to see it. And
Uh-huh.
the girl sitting next to me was watching it, and
you
she
watched
she
the Greg
ripped
Araki
it.
movie
Nowhere.
Was
Yeah.
that like available on
no,
the plane?
No,
You like
I
had
had
an
a
iPad.
laptop,
Yeah,
and the
okay,
girl
sure.
next to me
Right,
had
right,
her
right.
laptop,
Yeah.
and
'Cause it
I
would just be
had always
funny.
wanted to see it.
It was like today on Delta we have a Greg Araki series. If you want to check out that package,
Yeah,
you know.
and next time we'll be doing kids on the return
Yes.
flight. Yeah, yeah.
She goes with Crow. They pick through the book for like, okay, what's all our favorite stuff in here? She's like, the mall is the narrative center of this book,
Right.
so it will be the narrative center. It's like the
Let's amp it up even more.
You
That's
know,
the
I
sort
do
of
understand the
central spoke.
exoticism of a mall as a New Yorker.
Yeah.
Me
I
too.
now live in Tennessee, and I love the mall.
But aren't malls kind of dying a little bit as online,
Absolutely.
right? They're not quite
Yeah,
the
right,
social
right.
hubs that they used to be. I feel like.
Not New Jersey. As a New Jersey
well, New
resident,
Jersey, they're like historical art of
yeah,
buildings.
They're just
like
yeah,
landmarks.
exactly. They're required. They're
Yeah.
truly so in my DNA. That like was where everyone would hang out on the weekends after school. I would just hang out at the mall.
But I
Crazy.
have that same thing where once I was out of high school and I traveled anywhere and I still have this instinct. I'm like, where's the mall? I should go to the mall. You know, like I will understand the place I'm in right now if I go to the mall.
Have you been to the Mall of America?
I haven't.
Oh my God, they've roller
That's
coasters.
in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Well, I've been to the American Dream Mall
That's in
In
in East
Jersey.
Rutherford, New Jersey,
Yeah.
which also has roller coasters and is a
Oh,
nightmare.
I did see that recently.
This
Yeah.
is a
I mean,
new mall that opened during
Do
the
you
pandemic.
go to the mall a lot in Nashville?
I do go to the mall because that's where like the nice stores are,
Right, right. Because
and
like,
I only buy nice things.
Well,
because the appeal of the mall is like I get it so much. Like maybe malls need to make a comeback because it is like I don't know what to do with myself. The mall will show me what I want. Do I just want to go eat some pizza and window shop? Fine.
well, it's like the
Do I
ultimate,
want to go like the
ultimate third place because what
buy
if the
8
third place
books
is a
and-
million places?
Do you
Right,
want a
right.
sample of chicken teriyaki? Yum, yum, yum.
Yes.
right?
But I also just feel like, and I'm sure it was like this in the 80s too, but like now it's so much more obvious how much like crap you can buy. Like,
Yes.
even
it's
like,
all laid out for you there.
and it just like, I feel gross at the mall after a certain amount of
Yeah.
time because it's just like, obviously this was made by someone that shouldn't be making clothing, and you know, like there's a kind
Whatever.
of
The
we've
pure-
peeked behind, the purity of the mall
Capitalism
has
of
been
it.
replaced
Yeah.
by my knowledge
There's
of
arguably
capitalism.
another thing too, which is just like we're being sold shit all the time everywhere.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
it's
right.
less of an escape or whatever.
Right, the escape of just like I'm going to a mall and considering buying stuff for the
I
first
like
time.
the idea of,
versus like every social media feed
like-
is like
Mhm.
cramming
I
stuff
grew
down
up
your
in
throat.
London, and you know, I would like,
Offensive.
and I would do the same shit with
Wait a
my
second.
friends, which was like I would go to the record store, your Virgin Megastore or HMV or whatever,
Yeah,
right?
Ben, just
Loved
clip
the
that for
Virgin
later.
Megastore.
We might want to save that to the soundboard. Go on, David.
Right, and then we would go see a movie. It's
Yeah,
just like we
yes.
just didn't get to all do it in one big
Well, I
building.
feel
Like, we
like-
were doing the same shit.
I feel like for us that was Union Square, right? Where it was not
Right,
a mall,
you
but
go
you
to
had the Virgin
some
Megastore, you had the
commercial
Regal Theater.
district,
Like there
yeah.
were like
You had the places you'd shoplift from.
Max Brenner, Chocolate by the Bulb.
Oh my god!
Um,
What about Cozy?
Oh,
Cozy and Sando. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yes.
Ollie's? Would you go to Ollie's?
No.
Because I would go to Ollie's. And, okay, well, you know what?
No,
Whatever.
we were cool.
Yeah.
Forbidden
so-
Planet. Forbidden Planet.
Forbidden
remember?
Planet, of
Oh,
course.
right. You're talking Union Square, not Lincoln Square.
Yeah.
Sorry. So, all right. Casting. Sean Penn had only been in one movie, Taps,
Mhm.
but says he felt like this was his role.
His
Like he was already like sort of brimming with arrogance.
his father's like a top TV director, did a
Mhm.
bunch of Star Trek and stuff, Leo Penn.
And
And yes, he was like already at this age had the reputation for like that Penn kid is serious.
And
he's,
then
like,
I was reading
intense.
on IMDb trivia.
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna keep saying that
Please.
until it sounds like a reputable news
Mhm.
source about like how seriously he took
Yes.
this comedic role. And I was just thinking, like, whenever I've worked with actors who do that now, well, A, they don't, but B, if they did, I'm thinking of one person who was just like so serious all the time, and I felt like they were a loser.
You want to strangle them, and also
Yes.
usually you watch the final
Well, they're
product.
a prick.
They're a prick.
They're a prick, and he was probably a prick, but it's
Yes.
so good. And
It's
so
perfect
fun.
for
But
this.
it's
so
also
alive.
like
It's-
he's
it's so
being
alive.
serious about playing a fun guy.
Yes.
Where I'm like, he might have been less of a prick on this movie than on every other movie. There's a possibility
Maybe.
that him taking Spicoli seriously made him easier to work with.
Did he
But-
go method, you think?
Yes, he did.
So he got stoned?
Yes.
Hell
I
yeah.
mean, his eyes. I was
What?
how you could not the eye. I was like, someone either is the best makeup artist of all
It's
time
not-
and figured out how to do that.
The eyes and
Or
just
it's
his
real.
general like redness.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
there's just something very,
But this
very
is the thing.
real
He
about.
notoriously was like, I will treat this as if I am playing
And
Hamlet.
you can't call me Sean. I'm
Right.
only Jeff.
I'm
only Spicoli.
None of the
Yes.
actors like interacted with him.
Right.
This seems like a nicer guy to interact with. But to your point, usually that's annoying because it's people doing that to play tortured people, right?
Mm,
Or B,
right.
If you're taking something that could be this silly that seriously, you're just kind of like, dude, you're sucking the fun out of it.
Mhm.
You watch the final product and you're like, this is too overthought.
Well, you're not understanding the assignment, and this is something I feel as an actress all the time.
Yeah.
Like I overburden the script with my idea of what good acting is.
Very well said.
And I'm like, oh my God, it was a scene where I was supposed to eat like pasta, and a normal person would do that with a knife and fork, but not I.
Mm.
I use spoons.
Well, this is the movie brain thing of both of us being like obsessive movie dorks, is you like read the script and you go like, oh, this is that type of scene. Like rather than trying to do the math on like what serves the character,
Right. What
you're
would
like,
this
Yeah.
person be
oh,
doing?
or
what
what
are
serves the story.
right, you're like, what are my favorite pasta scenes in movies and how do I make this my version of that or whatever?
Yeah.
Like he is so serving the film.
Yes.
It is one of the best comedic performances of all time. There are also so many cases of things like this where it's like a serious actor who has an early, like, quote unquote, silly performance and they're really embarrassed by it. And he's like, no, that's like amongst the best work I've ever done. I take it really seriously. He will do every retrospective interview.
Yeah, he,
Wow.
he,
Like,
takes
he
the-
just,
he
like,
knows the movie
values
is
this
important.
So much. It's just so funny to be like, oh, the Penn Kid. He's like fucking method. He's the new Brando. He does one movie, then he does this. It like turns him into this surprise kind of like teen like movie star for a moment in like a very different vein, and he doesn't distance himself from it, and yet then goes back to doing his other shit and becomes like that guy times a billion.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
he did We're No Angels. He's made very few comedies.
Yes.
And usually when he makes a comedy, quote unquote, it's kind of like a crime comedy or whatever. Like it's got like a edge to it.
But I also feel like the times that
21 Grams is a comedy, right?
yeah, it's very fun. No, he's done funny things. If you ask me, in the last 15 or 20 years, and almost all of
Well-
them are self-parody of making fun of how serious he is.
But my favorite Sean Penn performance all time is Milk, which is a drama, but is like such a like life, like, you know, filled with life, so humorous. Like he's so
it's the
very
same thing as Spicoli, where you're like, there is like a beauty to the purity of this character and the optimism of them, where you're surprised that he's able to conjure that for a guy who's so like,
Gangsta Squad.
but then like, right, he'll show up on like Curb Your
I mean,
Enthusiasm.
he's so funny in Licorice Pizza,
Yes.
playing a guy who takes himself too seriously.
And even like he's like funny in Walter Mitty. Like there'll be these things
Oh,
where it
yeah.
feels like he's riffing on Sean Penn is humorless,
Right.
and he does it well.
right,
But the bizarre thing is to see him nail this.
Mystic River, that's a comedy.
I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
Okay, wait, I have to pee.
Do
Okay,
it.
go ahead. I'm going to keep doing context while you pee. Judge Reinhold is the only person they like who
Your
reads for the
Honor.
role.
Yeah.
Your Honor.
Yeah,
My favorite performance in the movie, kind of, in a weird sort
he's
of a way.
wonderful.
And also a performance that reveals more to me as you rewatch this movie. I've seen this movie many times.
I mean, we'll talk about it, but
because
the
it's
moment in the parking lot.
deceptively subtle. Exactly.
Yes. But to Lola's point, Nicolas Cage read for that part originally. They liked him. They found out he was underage, would not be able to shoot adult hours.
Yes.
So they throw him the Brad's Bud part just as a like, hey kid, we'll like give you a credit
But-
and help you get your SAG card.
Can I tell you what Art Linson said about Judge Reinhold? As
Please.
they are obviously wrestling with like, right, well, do we cast this underage actor? And apparently they like Reinhold, and Art Linson says, look at this guy. He's as old as Ed Asner. Just think that's a great insult.
I mean,
And
it
so they
is.
cast everyone in the senior class
Yeah.
is basically played by a 25-year-old, which is, my wife remarked on it immediately. She was like, it's like all the teen movies where like, and I'm like, it's kind of starting, like
Judge also,
it's this sort of unavoidable. But yes, and also he just reads old.
I was going to
generally.
say, I think you could pull him
He's
out
about
of class
25,
at
I think.
17 and he still would have read old. I think he's just got a bit of an old man
He's got
energy.
the gawkiness. He's so
Yes.
tall that he.
But the deep voice and the,
he's such a.
I love
sweetie
it.
pie.
But I think to your point, in this movie, it feels deliberate and appropriately applied that it's kind of speaking to an ecstatic truth of when you are 15 or 16, how old an 18-year-old feels. Right? Like the gulf between him and Jennifer Jason Leigh, and I know Jennifer Jason Leigh is also not a teenager in this movie.
Oh, she is. She's like 19.
Okay.
She's like 19 or 20. Everyone's a few years older than they're
The
playing. or
6
whatever.
years between them
Yeah,
in
they're-
real
yeah.
life feels reflective of how big the 2 years between those characters feels
It
when you're a
works
teenager.
For that very reason. I
Exactly.
don't know if you agree, Ben.
It's so authentically capturing what it's like to be
Yes.
that age and be that and that time in your life that I think you just settle in. And I'm not so distracted
No,
by
not at
that
all.
fact.
No,
You know,
no,
you just
no.
lock
I
in.
don't
No.
find it remotely distracting, but I'm also watching actors I know as older actors.
Well, there's that
So
part of
I'm like, look at Jennifer Jason Leigh's like little puppy fat cheeks, and like, look at baby Sean Penn, look at baby Judge Wright. I'm like, I know what these guys grow up to be.
It is wild to watch a movie like this where so many people in it continue to be relevant today, where you're like,
Yes.
you have like many, many people where the careers are really long and important. And then you read the list of like so many of the other people who read for parts or were close to parts. And it's one of those things where you're like, there's an entire alternate cast of this movie that would have been good. That aren't
Sure.
like Eric Stoltz in Back to the Future. Like, thank God we missed that. Eric Stoltz, of course, also in this.
He is Matthew Broderick, Ralph Macchio,
Right.
Scott Baio, Ali Sheedy are people who read and who came close or whatever. Jennifer Jason Leigh, obviously, it's her big breakthrough. Phoebe Cates, Art Linson found in a juice bar because she was just so gorgeous.
Mhm.
They-
Jodie Foster was the studio wanted her for the
Oh,
Jennifer
sure.
Jason
Well,
Leigh
she's a
part.
young actor,
Makes
right,
perfect sense.
Uh,
Justine Bateman was offered the Phoebe Cates part and did Family Ties instead.
Oh, that worked out for
It
her
worked out
fine.
great
And
for
now she's
everybody.
a normal poster.
Tom Hanks turned down for Brad.
Yeah, Tom Hanks makes total sense for Brad.
Yes.
But I'm happy we got The Judge.
Me too.
Gavel,
Gavel-
movies made
gavel
for
sound down.
$5.5 million, shot in 35 days. Sherman Oaks Galleria is
Mhm.
the mall they use. Van Nuys High School, which I feel like is a high school that gets used all the time, is the high school.
The main two producers on this are Art Linson, as we said, and then what's his name? Irving Azoff,
Mm-hmm.
who is a big music producer as well.
Right. And he's putting the soundtrack together.
Right.
Which
So-
is incredible.
So there's
Right.
basically this balance of like they got this heavyweight who's able to negotiate to get some of the songs they want, but also he's like, I represent Stevie Nicks. You got to put a Stevie Nicks song in there.
What
And
is
he-
that song?
Sleeping Angel, which is an incredible
Yeah,
song.
I have never heard it.
The
I mean,
Eagles
I
had-
know it from the Fast Time
Same.
soundtrack
The Eagles had just
exclusively.
broken up, and he kept trying to get every like solo Eagles project that was starting up as well. Like he'd be like, "You got to do this and this
Yeah,
and this."
right.
And Heckerling is fighting for like, I want edgy new music. I want Fear. I want the Go-Go's. I want the Talking Heads. I want Oingo Boingo, the Dead Kennedys. Like she's fighting for that, and they're just the soundtrack is a compromise.
But I think it's a great balance. Like it
Oh, I
ends up
agree.
working, and there's a weird thing of like it having these leftover 70s songs that you're like, they would still be circulating. It's that thing people talk about with period films. Like if you're making a movie in 1980, the art director should look at things from 1975. Because it feels wrong if everyone has the newest clothes, the newest furniture, the newest cars.
Right.
And so there's that sense of like these songs would still be on the radio. And also Amy Heckerling was clearly like finding things that were right on the edge of breaking
and I think
through.
it's perfect
It's
because
perfect.
when you're a teenager, you do listen to like old
Exactly.
sort of,
It's all in the
radio
suit.
music as well
Yeah,
as new shit.
it's a perfect soundtrack.
They test screen it in Orange County and famously get terrible results, probably because Orange County is more conservative and
That was Art
the
Linson's
studio
thing.
gets spooked.
And Art
Linson's
Linson was
"Fuck
like, "This is
them."
not our audience. We made
Right.
a movie that has sex and drugs in an honest way, and these are not our people."
They have to cut Robert Romanus's penis out of the movie because they got an X rating.
Correct.
When they cut it out, they go back to an R rating. Now my Blu-ray lovingly includes his penis.
The Criterion
thank God.
Collection
Is
version.
it a flaccid penis?
It's a flaccid
just of him
penis.
taking
It's
his pants
just when they're
off.
undressing. It is,
Yes.
in my opinion, crucial to the scene because
Yes.
the idea they're both equally vulnerable in that moment.
And the scene's timed a little differently.
it's just slightly longer.
Right.
you know?
It's a little more awkward. I mean, she gets, look, the abridged version of it has its own comedic power
Mm-hmm.
because it becomes so ridiculously
Yes.
fast.
But
But yes, it is like quietly restored on the Criterion version. I feel like there wasn't even a lot of noise made about it at the time, but it was the first time you can now see her version of that. scene.
and someone within you. Oh, what is it, Ben? Sorry. Did you want to say
I was just
something?
going to say, I mean, not even a 1 minute man.
No.
Yes.
No.
No.
But
He-
that's
he
it's
dreams
so
of a minute.
perfect.
It
It's so
is.
perfect.
It
Like, of
is.
course.
We'll
Yeah,
get to
yeah.
it, but it's just like, yeah. The arc of that character is unbelievable.
Someone internally at Universal writes a memo to Nid Tannen and Sid Sheinberg, who run the studio, and say, if you release this film, like the future of the studio is in doubt.
People were talking
This is
about it
pornography.
as if it was kids.
Right.
As if
Right.
like this is a movie with like, like unsimulated sex and like intravenous drugs. Like the level of outrage within the studio is insane.
So they kind
To
of
read
release
now.
it quietly, then are flabbergasted that kids are really excited by the movie and want to see it. It
Going
does
multiple times.
okay.
Yeah.
But they basically could never kind of catch up to the demand. And then it
It was-
becomes
right.
a early VHS
Right.
super smash.
It was a weird scramble.
And famously,
yeah.
when you rent the VHS, the Phoebe Cates scene is completely degraded.
Oh my God.
100%.
Which then makes it mythical of like,
Right.
I have a cousin who saw it in theaters.
Right.
Yeah.
But it is an early example of a movie that owes so much of its life to video.
Yeah.
Because it was sort of the early days of video.
And it's also a little,
And obviously it's a teen thing.
I was going to say, it's a little early in the 80s teen movie trend. I mean, it's not like the one that kickstarts everything, but it does feel like.
Which one did kickstart everything?
Let's do a timeline on this.
Oh boy.
No, because the first Hughes is 84. Is that
Oh
right?
no. Okay. Well, you have to go back to like Last Picture Show and American Graffiti, which
Right.
are these early 70s new
Yes.
Hollywood movies, but they're about teens.
Yes.
Now they're set in the 50s,
Nostalgic
right?
look
They're
backs.
nostalgic,
Right.
but they're a little realer.
Yes.
And so, like, I feel like, and if you go even back even further to like the Blackboard Jungle or whatever,
Right.
like there's even, there's like early, like,
But those movies are real, but also kind of wistful, right? And have this sense of being a little more elevated because
Right.
they are.
then in
throwing back-
78, you have
yes.
Animal House,
Yes.
which I feel like that is the to me, original R-rated movie for teens.
Yeah.
Right? Like where it's like, it's kind of contradictory. And it was like, why would you make like a grown-up movie essentially that's about stupid idiot teenagers getting
Sure.
naked and swearing and like getting in fights or whatever, right?
But it's
like,
also college sex.
it's college, so it's a
Yes.
little more grown up. But still, it's like, it's not like that movie is for, sweater wearing 40-year-olds, right? Like, I mean,
No, in fact, that movie flips off the sweater wearing 40-year-olds.
and so then I guess it's like Rock and Roll High School
Mhm.
is an early one, right? And like, I'm trying to think of other like early. I mean, this is really one of the first ones
This
to
is
me.
the thing. I think this
Because
movie
Porky's
is a turning
82
point.
as well.
Yeah.
And Porky's kind of is porn.
Right.
Like Porky's is like softcore porn.
I think those,
Like, I'm not saying that judgmentally. It's just like Porky's is a little bit more like, let's do some plot so we can get to like more sex jokes and nudity and
I
stuff.
put forward the notion that Porky's and Fast Time basically creates the two lanes that these movies go on for the next decade, right? Where it's like Fast Times more directly leads to like Hughes and Martha Coolidge, and then Porky's leads to just like fucking Screwballs and Hot Dog the movie, all the fucking movies where like dudes are fucking things and jerking off. and
Have you
whatever.
seen Porky's?
No.
Do you know what Porky's is?
Yes. I mean, I know the poster.
Yeah.
Of course.
There's a character named Booger.
No, you're thinking Revenge of the Nerds.
That's Revenge of the Nerds, which
fuck.
is kind of sanitized Hollywood Porky's,
Right.
Yes.
I would say. And Revenge of the Nerds has essentially like a rape subplot in it that it doesn't recognize as a rape.
Correct.
Right? It's like, oh, this is funny.
It treats as sort of a like snobs versus slobs victory.
Right.
That like the nerds got one over on the uptight cool girls.
Right,
Wow.
which is an
Which is,
example
yeah,
of like
really
how
ugly.
dysfunctional these movies are.
Correct.
Which this one is not.
Well, this is what I'm saying is that there becomes this split into like the movies that are just like hormonally like fucking tits and hijinks, right?
Yeah, like Losing It and Private School. And I'm
Yes.
trying to, like all this sex comedies of the mid 80s.
And then there's the sort of like inner life of the teen movie made compassionately kind of like
John Hughes movies.
right, and Valley Girl and stuff like
Right,
that.
Valley
You know,
Girl.
even in a sillier version or whatever. And that this is the one that's like kind of both
But it's also neither.
in a
This
much
movie
more
is
intelligent way. But as you said,
unusual.
it's also neither.
Like this movie is also one of the very few that's directed by a woman.
Yes.
Of any of the movies we're talking about. And it's just the way it depicts sex to me is all because a woman is directing it.
I agree. They during the pandemic, Museum of Moving Image, along with the like Queen Science Center, did this whole summer series of drive-in double features that we went to a couple of. We went to RoboCop and Escape from New York.
Yeah.
I mean,
Did you take a taxi, Griffin?
I would make people drive me,
Boom,
such as
I drove.
my friend Ben.
Yes.
But I kept on, anytime I saw a good one on the schedule and I was so scared of doing anything during the pandemic, I'd like text everyone I knew with a car and be like, hey, well, you want to do this on Tuesday? I went,
Griffin wouldn't let me hotbox though, which was so annoying.
What a fucking narc.
Did he at
I
least make
know.
out with you?
of course I made it.
Okay,
I'm
of
a
course.
gentleman.
Yeah, he put out.
Yeah.
You bought the popcorn.
over
and
the
Griffin put
shirt
out.
stuff?
over the
but-
shirt.
Right,
over the
right,
shirt.
right.
They did a Fast Times, Days and Confused double feature that I went to with our old friends Ramona and Eloise Head.
Oh.
And Ramona just turns to me like an hour into Fast Times and is like, how did this get made?
Yeah, well,
Not
it's a
to
little
quote
bit.
Paul Scheer. And I
yeah.
was like, it's directed by a woman. And she's like, oh, okay. But was just so confounded by like, this is from 1982 and it's treating this stuff this way. Why does this feel different than every other teen movie I've seen? And I was like, that is the key difference.
Something I feel like it really nails is how grown up kids are.
yes,
Yes.
Like, that's something.
and yet aren't.
And yet aren't, but how grown up they like seem like they are. Like, I love how untimid Jennifer Jason Leigh is, or her character is, about sex. And whether that's because she's compensating for a real
Mhm.
timidity that she does have.
It's a little bit that, but then she does actually have a sexual boldness to her
Yeah.
that she doesn't quite know how to express. I
Yeah.
guess.
Here's the thing that hit me on this watch that I don't think I picked up on before. Does this movie not show a single parent?
It doesn't show any parents.
But like
that's
that's
so
to
interesting.
your point.
yes,
That it
No,
like
it doesn't.
it is just about treating them as autonomous individuals.
Yeah.
They are not defined by their relationship with their parents, which I feel like is such a big part of all these other movies. And even Breakfast Club, that only has the parents at the beginning, is so much of them talking about their parents.
Well, but Breakfast Club is also them very loudly talking about their social class.
Yes.
Whereas in this movie, all of that is there for you if you want to
Sure.
think about it. Especially how Damone is clearly so much poorer
Mhm.
than most of the characters in this movie, but you don't really think about it until the end of the movie.
And the movie also doesn't really create like a social strata within the school of like the hierarchy of the cliques.
because that's
It's just sort of like, these are just weirdos. Right.
Yeah.
Everyone's sort of coexisting. You have different types.
Because that's what Everybody Wants Some is also about to me.
Yes.
Is it's like throwing back to a less cliquey time. It's college, obviously, but
Yeah.
right where you're like stoners, jocks. Who cares? Let's all just like hang out, man, and sing songs and get stoned.
But this is
This
the
isn't
start
quite as
of, like,
utopian as that.
subculture culture taking over.
But everyone wants to go see fucking Van Halen,
Yes.
or whatever. Like whoever's playing at the
Blue
the-
Oyster Cult.
Man, where were you 2 weeks ago? He had all the Blue Oyster Cult tickets then. Do you just like wait for them to do Don't Fear the Reaper? And then you're like, all right, I'm out.
All right,
Like,
thanks so much,
Hopefully
I'm
they
out.
start with
Yeah.
that.
We need to shout out too, just because we didn't include it, Grease. I feel
Yes.
feels like another
That's a good point.
teen
point.
movie
Mhm.
Yes.
that,
and
that
Grease
came
is,
before.
the musical is much raunchier.
Yes.
And then the movie version is sands it down a little bit to make it more
But
Same
another
with Sandy
movie
was it
that
down.
is nostalgic for an earlier
Yes.
time.
Right.
than the
Another,
one.
right, 20 years ago.
That was
right.
the
Yeah,
bridge,
yeah, yeah.
though. I do
Yes.
think because also
Yes.
Animal House is a period piece.
Yes, it is.
People
Exactly.
forget that,
Right.
but like all of these
Well,
were
because
kind
they
of,
all feel like period pieces
Right.
now. Yeah.
but all of them were getting in through the system because it was like slightly older filmmakers making films about their childhoods with a distance that was more sellable to middle-aged audience members.
Yeah.
You know, rather than being like, we are just making movies for teenagers, which I think was seen as like a limiting audience, like as a business model at that time. And then in the 80s, they're like, oh, fuck, teenagers have money. They go to malls. We got to make more movies for them.
So we've got Jennifer Jason Leigh is a sort of major character. I'm trying to think of like how you organize this film story.
I feel like she is the ostensible lead.
She's the main part.
She's
yeah.
probably the biggest lead character. And then you've got...
Do you have performances on your Oscar bracket for this movie?
Oh,
Because I was doing the math on this. David has a spreadsheet of who he would nominate in every category every year for
Lola's
decades.
cool. You shouldn't be telling her that.
That's
shit
why I
about
have
me.
to tell her, David.
I like this game though.
Yeah.
I'm not that cool.
So Jennifer Jason Leigh is my winner for
For-
Best Actress.
Okay, yeah.
And then I have Sean Penn
Supporting.
and nominated
And
as
Judge.
supporting and judge. And that's it. I don't have any. I mean, that's plenty.
Who's she beating
obviously.
for actress in your 82?
Oh, Sean Young for Blade Runner, Mary
Interesting.
Warrenov for Eating Raoul, very underrated
Mm-hmm.
movie. Dee Wallace for E.T. and Joe Beth Williams for Poltergeist. I think it's kind of like a weird year for
D and
actresses.
lead. Interesting.
Yeah, but I might be kind
Did
of.
Meryl Streep not make a movie that year?
I think she did.
82.
What was
Yeah.
it?
Let's-
Silkwood?
Like French Lieutenant's Woman.
That's a great movie. Or that's a good movie.
I'm
Let me
looking it
look up the Oscars for that year.
Yeah.
So the
Because
Oscars
you have zero overlap.
definitely because the
Yeah.
Oscars for that year is the Gandhi ET Oscars.
Yeah.
Right. And so right, Sophie's Choice. Meryl Streep wins for Sophie's
She
Choice. That
did.
year.
Okay.
That's a
Not
film
only
that-
did Meryl
that's a
Streep
film
make a
that-
movie that year, she made the
I've-
Meryl Streep movie.
I've never
that year.
seen
Right.
Sophie's Choice.
Me neither.
Nor I.
We've all chosen the other.
Yeah, I, see,
other
I
option
haven't
to not
seen
watch it.
these movies. I've never
Yeah.
seen Missing, the Costa Gavras
sure.
movie, which is
With
Sissy Spacek.
Yeah.
I've never seen Frances, where Jessica Lange plays
Oh my
Frances
God, it's
Farmer.
amazing.
I bet it's good.
What is kind of hard to see now? Is that right?
I think a lot of these movies
Yeah.
end up in weird rights
I've always wanted to
zones
see
or whatever.
Francis. Yeah.
I've never seen An Officer and a Gentleman in full. I've seen that like half on TV or whatever. Deborah
Yeah.
Winger.
I
Yeah.
have.
And
I'm cool.
Cool.
Yeah, oh,
It's great.
Five
I mean,
cool
I
points.
love Deborah
Love
Winger.
live.
Huge
I do too.
fan.
Rolls.
I do too. Big Deborah Winger fan.
Yeah.
Probably 5 years prior would have been perfect for Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Yeah,
Like she
yes.
kind of has. Well, did she make a movie with Amy Heckerling? No,
No.
she didn't.
No.
But I feel like I don't know. There's a world where they would have
Yeah,
crossed
I agree.
paths.
Yeah.
But okay, so Jennifer Jason Leigh's kind of your main character, and then
Yeah.
like Phoebe Cates is sort of attached to her, right?
Mhm.
Like, and I guess Brian Backer, Rat, is sort of a main character with Romanus, kind of, with
Yeah.
Rick
I mean,
Damone
you have right.
attached to him,
Yes.
and then Judge Reinhold is sort of your third-ish, like most important main character.
Yes. I think the Rat Damon
and
thing.
Sean
What's
Penn is
interesting
kind of floating around.
is that for the first half, Rat is leading that storyline. The second half, Damone is leading that
Yeah.
storyline. There's sort of one thread that flips in terms
Again,
of
this all feels like it flies in the face of how you would do this kind of a movie.
Absolutely.
Right.
to not force any sort of more conventional structure on the book, or hooks or any of that kind of stuff, and to just have it be like it's just sort of a fudgy timeline of a year.
Yeah, 100%. Let's not even worry about homework or parents or like, oh, I got to get into college or
Yeah.
I got to, none of that shit. Like,
My favorite thing about the decision to really center around the mall is like really tying each of them to their jobs.
Yeah.
Right.
And also forcing these characters to spend half of the movie in the dumbest uniforms
right,
possible.
these really dorky clothes.
Like it gets this sense of like this weird conflict between like you feel like a grown up because you have a responsibility and you're making money on your own for the first time.
Right.
But the payoff for that is you got to wear some dumb shit and flirt with the people you like while wearing that shit.
It's such a big part of the book. And that's the Judge Reinhold character, Brad,
Mhm.
who I love. It's such a great joke that he's like, I'm so good at this.
Yes.
Like,
I'm a single successful. I'm a
Right.
successful guy.
I'm
Yeah.
on top of the world.
I got
He's
it
a
figured
fry
out.
chef, essentially. And
Yeah.
it's just like, it's beautiful. Like every other character in this movie, I think, is more just kind of like, God, I cannot wait to be a fucking grown up. Like,
Yeah.
and get out of this shit and like go do whatever exciting things I want to do. And Brad is the guy who's like, it ain't getting better than this, baby.
I got a
Like,
LeSabre, baby.
I got my Buick. I got my job. I got my girl.
I've been
Should I
going
junk the
steady for
girl?
3
Yeah,
years
right.
or whatever. You know what's funny? I'm realizing now, Brad is kind of the original template for the Cameron Crowe character.
Okay.
not as much like Say Anything, but Brad is like a mini high school version of a like Jerry Maguire, where it's like this guy who kind of feels like I have it all figured out. I'm a master
And
of the
it's
universe.
just so fun pulling the rug out.
Right.
From under
And then
him.
his life just like crumbles and he's like, I'm getting it together. You know, like Brad
So
just keeps
funny.
being like, gonna get this back on track.
The thing that
Yes.
shocked me the most of watching it last night was that it's Forrest Whitaker.
Yeah.
he is. It's one of his
But to
first
my
roles.
point where you're just like,
he's like
just
20,
there.
21 years old.
Like he's in 3 scenes, but the way this movie's shot, you're like, he's around in the background a bunch.
But I always remembered like how that character had one eye smaller than the other.
Yeah.
right. That
And then
Forrest Whitaker
rewatching
squint.
it, I was like, oh yeah, that guy looks like Forrest Whitaker with one eye smaller than the
Yeah.
other. And then I looked it up and I was like, that is
It's Forrest Whitaker, baby.
We covered this on some other episode. Maybe it was the Panic Room episode. But this thing I find fascinating is like, this
Great
is his
actor.
first movie? Is that right?
Yeah, he has one other credit the same year called
Okay.
Tag, the Assassination Game. But,
And then
yes.
he does Color of Money.
Yeah, but that's 4 years later.
He has some other credits in between, or
Just
no?
one. He's
Okay.
in Vision Quest.
It's like
the
us,
Matthew
Griffin.
Modine movie.
Then Color of Money, he's got this like
He might have
really
like done some TV or something. I don't
good
know.
kind of showcase extended role,
Yeah,
right?
he's really good in Color Money.
And
And
then-
he's in Platoon that year.
And then after Platoon and Color of Money, Lola, Forrest Whitaker's like, I don't know my craft. And then like goes to drama school. He already like has 5 major credits
Mm.
and has like worked with incredible people and is like, I need to get serious about this. And then like
hell yeah.
goes to fucking conservatory and then comes back and is like, here I go, I'm ready.
I mean, I don't. Interesting, because are you sure that didn't happen after Vision Quest? Because he goes right from Color Money and Platoon to Stake Out and Good Morning Vietnam to Bird. Like
then
those
maybe,
are.
then you know what?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm right. Maybe it's in between
I feel like
I
it
was
must be
wrong.
before because
in between
like,
Vision Quest and Color of
it
Money.
makes sense too because he comes out of whatever that was a much more fully formed actor.
So that I knew there was a gap, but it has to be that.
because in
Yeah.
this he's being cast for his physicality. He
Yeah.
really like he looks the part. He's so funny just for like 1 minute, basically. Like as the I mean, I think the scene where Damone pretends to be his friend is really funny. Because he's not mean to Damone. He's just kind of like, okay.
I mean, this movie just constantly somehow holds back from the most obvious version of every scene of every joke and like just
Does.
grounding it enough
Yes.
in realistic behavior.
Yeah, and not making too much of a meal out of the fact that like Phoebe Cates is making up a boyfriend essentially, probably, or whatever
Or
that
at least
situation. At
wildly
least completely
exaggerating.
delusional about
Right.
a guy she had sex with one time or
Right.
something. That Damone is full of shit about, his little business as a scalper. That Brad is
Oh
full,
wait, he's not a scalper?
No, he is, but it's just
Ew.
like he's acting like he's some
Right, because
wheeler
he doesn't have any
dealer.
money for the abortion.
He doesn't have any fucking money. Like he's clearly like laying himself out way too much to get like people like to like him by getting them
I'm
concert
gonna ask the
tickets.
question too. One of his, big intro scenes is him explaining to Rat the like 5 moves that always get a woman. Right.
This kind of like pickup artist
This
shit.
guy's
Yeah,
got
yeah.
all the fucking answers. My read, especially watching it
Is
this
he a
time,
virgin when he has
is
sex
he
with-
losing his virginity
Yes.
to Jennifer Jason Leigh?
I-
Right?
oh,
Yes,
if
100%.
of course.
Yeah.
If not,
Absolutely.
then he's barely ever had sex.
I had
Yes.
always considered it, and watching it this time, I
Okay,
was like 100%
here's my
dead
question. This
to
is the
rights.
bigger question. Is Damone hot?
Yes.
Would you fuck Damone?
This is what's
I
fascinating.
would.
When I was 14, I was like,
I might not fuck him if I got to know him because then
I
I'd
didn't
be
think
kind
he
of
was
like
hot when I was a teenager,
I'd
but I
be
thought
like-
he was hot now.
when I was 14, I was
kinda
like,
hot.
Yeah.
Damone is so cool, and this movie pulls off this amazing narrative twist of revealing that he's a piece of shit, right?
Hmm.
But I was like, the first half of the movie, I'm buying his coolness, and now I
interesting.
watch it,
Oh, I
and I'm
never buy
like,
his coolness.
see fucking through it from the get go. This
That's
guy's
what-
trying too hard.
I find the film is very compassionate to him, which I
agree.
like.
Yes.
I agree.
It would be easy for him to be a villain because he does the most straightforwardly villainous thing in the movie, which is he doesn't pay for the abortion
And
pick her
doesn't
up.
show up. More
Uh,
than anything,
right.
like beyond the
It's
payment.
cowardice, right?
The cowardice is not showing up and saying, I'm sorry, I couldn't get the money.
And I like that the movie doesn't really punish him. Like that Rat and him sort of like shake on it and they're like kind of still friends, although it's always going to be weird.
Yeah.
And that he's just going to be Damone. Like, and it's kind of like, you're like punishment enough that he's kind of, a bit of a bottom feeder or whatever it is.
It is an incredible performance.
It's a great performance. And then I really think it's crucial that at the end of that movie, near the end of it, you see him coming out of his house, his apartment, and you're like, right, he doesn't have a big fucking house with a pool that,
he lives in an apartment.
yeah, like it's like you just get more and more, you get to know him more as
Yeah.
the movie goes on in a way that, again, a regular teen movie would just not bother.
And
with.
it isn't overstated, but
It's not overstated. No,
but there's the moment when he goes to Jennifer Jason Leigh's house and he goes, "Oh man, must be nice to have a pool."
Yeah, and she has a pool house to have
Right.
sex in.
A changing room or whatever they
It's
call
a
it.
pool house. Yeah, you know, whatever. Yeah,
Right.
whatever.
But that happens like 10 minutes before you see the one shot of him leaving, and you've heard, that she called him and his mom picked up and said he's in the garage working with dad.
Right.
Right. But it's all that sort of stuff where you're like, so what's the structure of his life? What are his parents like? You don't see it. You don't know. Yeah.
He's just a little more lower middle class or whatever.
I love his fashion. He has such good fits.
Also, his musical taste from
Yes.
his walls are like incredible. The Tattoo You poster that's on the wall, you do get this sense of his aspiration and his desperation to leave this world that he's in, which is very different from
Yes.
the Jennifer Jason Leigh character's life.
This guy wants to be Cameron Crowe, right?
I guess so.
Like, as much
or
as
at
we
least he wants to go live in the city.
I think this guy lacks the focus to be like, I should be writing reviews or trying to interview musicians. But what he dreams of is that kind of life of I am friends with all the people I think are cool and they respect that I am cool. His whole posture is can I present a worldliness and awareness of culture, a sort of understanding of business that shows these teenagers that I'm on a different level and I'm beyond this. And in reality, he just wants those people to be like, you belong here with us.
Well, he's
You're an equal.
I guess in today's terms, he would just have been like a hipster.
Yeah.
And Jennifer Jason Leigh, if you look at her bedroom, she loves her life in a way. When she takes Rat into her room, she wants to show him pictures of her and her friends. It's so sweet. It breaks my heart. Because she likes having pictures of her friends and she likes her family. And then when you see Spicoli's room, I mean, you really do understand.
Yes.
I did see that a lot of those pictures on his wall are of Dorothy Stratton, which is another
That is wild.
interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's
we have
right.
two Lana Clarkson and Dorothy Stratton references in that movie.
Yes.
Very interesting.
Right, but she was star 80. I mean, this is her era. But even that, I'm the absence of the parents is so fascinating because it doesn't feel like the stylistic choice that is calling attention to itself. And yet, they are less present in this world than they are in fucking Peanuts, right? You
But
don't
I
even
like
have a
that
representation of their absence.
But you can what's nice to me, and I think is a good maybe note for filmmakers now is you understand the inner lives of these kids without having any of them talk about how depressed they are.
Totally. And to the point I feel like you were setting up, when you see Spicoli's room, and especially that moment at the end when Mr. Hand is leaving and he clocks all the naked women on the wall and just kind of gives it a beat and walks out.
Yeah.
My mind starts to go oh, this quietly says a lot about Spicoli's parents. I don't need to see them. I don't need to hear them referred to.
They're chill about this. Yeah.
There's something here in the culture of Spicoli's home where it's his entire room is
Spicoli has
wallpapered.
no mom. Is the immediate thing that I think. I mean, you have the dad. It's the little brother references dad, and then I don't think your mom would let you have that stuff on your
there's
walls.
all this coding shit where this movie makes you kind of spin out considering the aspects of the characters that aren't stated directly through the little hints it gives you of these things. And seeing Damon's room before you see him leaving the complex, oh, his taste is good. Look at who he has on his walls versus, oh, he's the only person in this movie who doesn't live in a house.
But Spicoli also has the most incredible fashion. And
those Vans.
The Vans.
I didn't realize that was originated by Spicoli.
He's right there.
The kind of pink knitted sweater thing. Everything
With the
he wears.
turtleneck underneath.
The turtle and
yeah,
the blue
comfortable.
cap, the Colt 45 t-shirt in the last scene. All of them, you're I know the whole point of this guy is he just rolls out of bed right into a van that's filled with bunk. But I'm he's making choices. He's making great choices.
I mean, this movie, I think, really
Extra cheese sausage, not a bad pizza order.
Totally.
Anyway, carry on. Yeah.
This movie really, I think, gave Vans as a brand exposed them to the mainstream.
See him
it was
take them out of a box.
It was skater.
Right, show the fresh one
shoe
straight to
wear.
camera and then
Yes.
fucking hit himself in the head with it. You're fuck, those shoes are cool.
Yeah, I'm wearing my Vans slip-ons today.
I
There you go.
noticed
Very
that.
nice.
I had a Vans They would always just kind of fall apart on me kind of fast. They're not great. No offense to bands who should sponsor our show.
Would love.
Come on board, band.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I do feel like they kind of fall apart on me quickly.
They're never going to come on board now that you said that. Well, maybe you
That's a
walk
terrible
hard.
thing to say.
But also, like,
Yeah,
Converse.
maybe. But I'm playing hard to get.
Lord.
They're going to be like, we got to
I
win
give
them
it
like
over.
Converse high tops, another iconic piece of shoe wear.
More what I wore.
They
yes.
fall apart similarly.
Yeah, they
I think
hurt
they're
your
kind of made. They're ephemeral.
I was
they,
a
they
fucking
don't last.
duct
like-
tape
Maybe
Converse
that's
kid.
the new tagline. Like, nothing lasts forever when you're
Enjoy
cool.
while it lasts.
Enjoy
Yeah.
while it's, there's something
I
there.
had these
Sure.
like puke green Converses. I loved them so
I had hot
much.
pink Converse.
Hell
I had all black, the sole, everything was black.
Those were cool.
And then I refused to retire them. So I would like tape them up to try to get another 2 months out of them.
yeah.
And by the end of it, it was like, these are more duct tape than they are shoe.
Shoes were so. It was like when you're a teen,
Yeah.
you're like, I don't get to get shoes that often. Like it was such a big deal. Now I'm just kind of like, shoes aren't, that expensive. You can just go get more shoes.
I know, but it was just like,
Back then, it really, you did
But
like
you
wear
couldn't
them
get
to
order
death.
them online. You had to
Right.
go to 8th Street between 5th and 6th.
that was the shoe block.
That was the all shoes.
I
Yes.
went to a uniform school.
There
in
were 0
England.
shoe stores left on the block now. It's crazy.
What is it now?
It's like just fucking juice bars and
Yeah,
avocado
so
toast.
whatever.
Right.
I'm going to fucking.
AI.
Everything is.
Chat GPT
Snapchatting.
store. I had to wear black non-sneakers, right? Like it's like I
Oh,
didn't,
as
I
a
didn't-
dress
I
code?
had a dress code. I was wearing a uniform, as many British students do. So I wore
Plimsolls?
so I
Okay,
wore
and
Doc Martens.
Ben clipped that for the soundboard
wearing
as
Doc
well.
wearing Doc Martens was the way to be like kind of cool while still like obeying the rules. Because
Oh,
it's like
cool.
these aren't sneakers
Yeah.
and they are black, right? So
Yes.
they're not like they don't have like a
I
pattern.
think that's
on
why
them.
Dr. Martin invented Doc Martens.
I like
Yes,
you
he
calling
was-
him Dr. Martin.
Dr. Martin.
He's
right?
my physician.
Well, he
Yeah.
was hanging out with Dr. Pepper and
Yes.
who else? Who are the other doctors
I
above?
think
Dr.
there were
Detroit.
Dr. Martens when I was a child.
Dr. Martin.
Mm.
And I used to have the floral Doc Martens.
Oh,
I be-
sure.
I believe they are officially Dr. Martens.
Thank
it's just
you.
a
Here-
affectation.
here's my strong memory of what we're talking about with like, oh my God, I finally get to get new shoes. Is like trying to sell my mom, like, oh God, these shoes hurt. I think my feet are growing too much. You know, that you try to jump ahead of like, you're only getting new shoes when you've grown out of them. When you're still at an age where the size is like changing rapidly. Oh, my toes are breaking. I need new shoes right now.
Wow.
So
It's a really good performance.
That's how you got into the biz.
That's how I got into the biz.
I mean, like, it's such a
Phoebe
big
Cates
movie.
was discovered at a juice bar. I was discovered at a shoe store. And they were like, this kid's really selling toe pain.
I'm trying to figure out how to tackle this movie. Like,
I mean, we
So-
start out with just
Well, we should
Go-Go's.
smash your car and
Yeah.
spray paint it.
Yeah.
And that's how we'll get into the
because
movie.
it's a short movie, 90 minutes.
Yeah.
It's nonetheless feels quite epic because I
does.
think of the year structure. Like, you just really feel time passing, even if the movie is generally kind of light and airy.
And it doesn't do
Like,
this kind of
plot-wise,
like
not
hitting of the
theme-wise?
seasons, reminding you of what month it is. Like so many
No.
movies like this really
Partly because it's
use-
set in California where it's like, man,
Right,
it always
exactly.
looks like this. You know?
But I feel like a lot of movies like this try to use like holidays to like pinpoint where you are in time, and this movie doesn't do any of that. You just sort of realize at the end, like, oh, the year's over.
It doesn't even make like the dance a thing, like often in these teen movies where it's like it's all building up to the
It's not
the,
a
the
thing
last
until
dance
basically
of
the,
the, year.
day of.
Sure.
No one's talking about an anticipation until the scenes that are taking place that day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not what these movies become, which is, oh, I have to ascend the social structure of
Mhm.
this school or crack the code or whatever.
In fact, the cheerleaders are
Are
very
li-
made fun of, but I guess that was a trope.
I think that's true at
Yeah.
the time. I think, yeah, cheerleaders haven't gotten to be alphas yet. And that's such a
It's
funny
seen as
scene.
dorky.
It's
Where
amazing.
the
Yeah.
cheerleader's trying to say, God bless her, like, we worked really hard on this. And everyone is just like, I don't know if this is what kids were like in the early 80s.
Mhm.
I wasn't a kid in the early 80s. When they're on the school bus and it's just fucking anarchy, everyone just throwing shit at each other, right? It does feel like more discipline came later. There must have just come some point where in like pedagogy, it was like, you know what? You should probably like make people sit still in their chairs.
Well, I also think you think of like the 60s and the 70s
Like,
being
we don't have
this
to be a
time.
military school over
Yes.
here, but people stop throwing shit at each other all the time.
I think in the 60s and 70s, you had this cultural shift to like the youth of America becoming very politically engaged and feeling the need to push back. And the sort of like unwieldiness and the chaos of their behavior was like as means to an end to make a point. And in the 80s, to some degree, that has like dissipated, and now it's just chaos.
And all the adults are so burnt out at that
Right,
point,
that's
too.
the thing. Like, you imagine these teachers were like 10 years ago dealing with students doing bra burning and being like, well, I can't push back on this or I'll look like a square,
Well, I
right?
think about-
and now it's just kids being kids, and they're no longer trying to accomplish anything.
But I think about Mr. Hand, played by Ray Walston. So,
Incredible performance.
an incredible performance. So I'm
Yes.
going to say that Mr. Hand is the age that Ray Walston was.
Okay.
Okay? How old do you think Ray Walston is?
Great question.
Because it's going to surprise you how old he
Yeah.
is.
So my favorite Martian's in the 60s or 50s.
My favorite Martian, which was the TV show he's on,
Yes, where he
was in the mid-60s.
arguably my favorite Martian.
Oh my
I
god.
had to do it. I debate. I don't know if you saw me just
I
close my eyes
did.
and
Yeah,
take the
I
beat and
saw
go,
it.
am I going to go through with this? But it was too far along. I'm going to guess he was 47 when they filmed this.
He was 68 years old.
That's crazy. I was surprised in the opposite direction. I
Correct.
assumed you were setting me up. to
That's what
think
you
he was
assumed
young.
I was
Yep.
doing. And I was shocked to learn that, in fact, he's really old at this point. So let's say he's actually 68 years old.
Okay.
That means he's probably been teaching since like World War II.
Right. He's been teaching for 40
Because
years.
I was really trying to put myself
Plus.
in this mindset of fucking Spicoli walks into this guy's class. This guy just wants to drone on about the Spanish-American War to these kids.
Yeah.
And Spicoli's ordering pizzas to the classroom, right? It's like the most like impossible force, immovable
Yes.
object thing,
Yes.
right? Like it's just, he is never going to get through to this kid. But he's also not the kind of teacher who thinks he should be getting through to kids, right?
Well,
He's
it's
like, the
what's
kids
so
should
great
sit
about
still
the
while I
final
talk to
fucking
them.
scenes. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And I was just, I had a lot of empathy for Mr. Hand.
Yes.
Where I'm like, again, like this guy, he probably served in World War II.
Yeah.
And now he's just like, what the hell has happened
But
to
to my,
America's youth?
well, that's my
That this is what I'm being confronted with.
to my
But
point.
his way of reaching them is terrible.
Yes.
Like, he's such a bad teacher.
Yes.
Sorry. I'm
No,
really
to my
into Mr.
point that
Hand.
it's like Mr. Hand has had to deal with trouble before, but the trouble always had some kind of driving reason behind it. Whereas Spicoli is something he just cannot wrap his head around. Where like Spicoli's lack of like shame or understanding when he is called out seems to be the thing that trips him up most. That when he's like trying to make an example as Spicoli just kind of lets it roll off him.
Yeah.
And yet it's like the thing in the final scenes where he's just like, I do kind of respect this kid. There's the combination of like,
That's why the
he's
scene's
not
so beautiful.
dumb. His brain is sideways.
Right.
He doesn't think like anyone else, but he's not dumb. You know, he's like, you actually got close on that one, Jeff. Even when he's trying to explain the Revolutionary War through his prism, he's like, you're not totally off. And I think by the end of it, he's like, there's something kind of beautiful about the way Spicoli functions, that he is so like unimpeded by the forces of anything else in the world.
So, have any of you ever ordered a pizza to your class?
No, it's the coolest move in the world. I wish I had.
I
No,
wish.
why didn't we do that?
I don't know. I feel
so,
like I did other
again,
dumb shit.
I
and
watched
should
this
have
with my
committed.
wife. She's a high school teacher.
Yeah.
And she's laughing at that scene
Mhm.
because it's funny.
Yeah.
She's like, and she says, like, we had to stop the kids doing this. And I was like, what do you mean? It's like, they were all fucking ordering DoorDash. Because I was like, right
Oh,
now.
now.
They
That's
do
too
that.
easy.
Yeah.
That's too easy.
Yeah.
And she was like, we had to make a rule. So it went from being the coolest thing in the world
Yeah.
to kids being like, let me just
I
DoorDash some
remember
Chick-fil-A
bringing
right
an
now.
entire White Castle Crave case into perhaps a class I had with
Oh,
your
you've talked
wife.
about this on the
right,
show before.
and the teacher just being like, absolutely
Correctly.
not. This
yes.
is not
I
happening."
remember 420, my favorite holiday, for way too long.
Of course, yes.
And I can't believe I did this, but I guess Spicoli was like a hero to me.
Mhm.
I walked into my 8 a.m. first period English class with a pint of fish food ice cream, and Miss Cantor,
Hell yeah.
Miss Cantor
Yeah.
looked at me and was just like, "Are you kidding me?"
That was the response I got to the Crave case, was just like,
That feels like a St. Anne's thing too, where it's like, you kids have so much rope and still
Correct.
And
you
you-
find
yeah.
like the boundary.
yes.
As
Uh,
someone who was basically high throughout my junior and senior year.
Okay, so that's when it kicked off for you, kind of
Mhm.
junior year.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. It's unbelievable to think back of how I would just be like bloodshot,
Right.
red-eyed,
Right.
going to class, and my teachers just didn't call me out on it.
Yeah.
And I wonder if it's a thing where now weed is so pervasive, it's so readily available, that I feel like now teachers are maybe like have to call kids out more so. Whereas
Do
don't
kids
know.
then
still
it was
smoke
like
weed?
swept
I feel
under
like they
the
don't
rug.
do it as
That's
much.
my thing. I'm like,
It's like-
being legal probably makes it less appealing to high schoolers. Am I
Like,
am I
if I
sane
could
about
have
that?
bought my drugs,
Right.
like in a store,
Right.
Right, rather than getting like the worst drugs from the
waiting
weirdest
for
person.
hours.
Right.
Yeah.
Did
Like
you smoke
smoking
under the
oregano.
bleachers?
No, we would. There's a lot of weed smoking while in the car. Unfortunately, while driving.
Oh, sure.
Which is
I
shown
mean, adults
in this,
do that all the time.
this
by the way.
movie.
No.
But yeah, it was mostly we would smoke in the car on the way to school and then show up late and roll in stinking like a blunt.
Jesus. I'd
This
be
is
so
the thing.
fucking
It
annoyed
is-
with you.
It is impossible.
I would be like, school gets out in the middle of the afternoon. Get
Yeah.
stoned then.
Yeah.
It's fine. Like, why do you have to get stoned at 9 in the morning?
I mean, I'm already winding down for the night by
Oh,
3 p.m.
yeah,
now.
absolutely.
well, now, sure. But, you're 16,
It is impossible to watch this movie and not go down these roads and like trying to like, what was I doing and what were my things and like what did I see in other kids and whatever. And yet this movie is not coded in any sense of sort of like wistful nostalgia. Remember one, like it is very unsentimental.
because it's not a
But it's
throwback.
compassionate.
While also being compassionate, is the exact
Yes,
word I
it's
was
very
about to use.
compassionate for everybody.
This very like fascinating balance, especially when you think about all the things leading up to it being like, man, weren't the 50s a better time?
It's
Wasn't
not-
it great that we grew up in the 50s?
It's not nostalgic, and it is not about like, kids versus adults. It's not Bye Bye
No.
Birdie of like, fuck these teachers. The teachers are kind of, there's just Mr. Hand, who, yes, he's a hard ass,
Uh-huh.
but he's just clashing with Spicoli,
And
who
here's
is,
the other thing.
to be
Let's
fair,
acknowledge it.
not being a very good student.
Mr. Hand is funny. Like when
He's got wit.
Mr. Hand
He's
snaps
funny
back
the way a
at
teacher
Spicoli,
is. Right.
the students laugh.
Yes.
He's not funny to the audience while watching a movie. He knows what he is doing. He's working his classroom. He's trying to get one up on Spicoli by making the better joke at his expense. Like, even that is much more balanced than just him being like mean, scary teacher.
And then there's Vincent Schiavelli as
Uh-huh.
Mr. Vargas. He just switched to Sanka. Please forgive him. Such a
Obsessed.
sweet performance
Beautiful.
of a teacher who, again, maybe is traumatizing his kids by essentially showing them a cadaver. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, feels a little traumatizing for
The-
a teenager.
This
I think it feels important.
Okay. I
This
mean, I'm
movie-
kind of with you on that.
has the two weird, like, for lack of a better word, franchise extensions that don't work. They make the second movie, The Wildlife, directed by Art Linson, starring Chris Penn, that is based on additional material from Cameron Crowe.
Wow.
Is not a straight up sequel, but is like, let's try to do another Fast Times.
Is he Spicoli's
No,
younger
a different
brother?
character.
Oh, wow.
They were just sort of like, fuck, can we get a Penn? Like, we just want to remind people of Fast Times as much as possible,
Right,
but
right,
it's not
right,
a
right.
straight
Let's
sequel.
just glom on. Right.
But then there was a network TV Fast Times TV show where the only two returning cast members were
The
the
teachers,
teachers.
Oh,
because why not?
Yeah.
I love that Mr. Vargas' wife is a babe.
Well, yeah.
Lana
That's such a
Clarkson.
funny joke.
Lana
Of course, that
Clarkson.
guy would pull. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
He's tall. He's interesting. He's
Yeah.
got a good heart.
Yeah.
But Ben, Lana Clarkson, did you realize who this is?
No.
This is the woman that Robert Blake shot, correct?
No,
No.
it's that Phil
Oh,
Spector.
excuse me. I'm sorry.
shot.
I get them confused. I get those
know.
two crimes confused because they were so close together.
They were very close
Yes.
together. Yeah.
So rather than
Dark
trying to succeed at school or
Mhm.
defeat the teachers or whatever the fuck. Okay, so Jennifer Jason Leigh, she wants to have sex. She doesn't even want to have sex like some American Pie, like we've
No.
got to do it by
Well,
this
I
deadline.
think she wants to be.
She wants to be grown up.
Yeah, and that to me, I feel like is very much an '80s thing. Like, I feel like now everyone wants to be a kid,
Yeah.
Yeah, forever.
Versus,
like everyone
like,
wants to be a kid forever.
wanting to be
Mhm.
a grown up. Like when I look at so many movies from the '80s that aren't teen movies, like I was just watching Basic Instinct. That's '80s, right? That's not
Yeah,
90s.
Yes.
very early
Yes.
90s. but
It's 91.
okay,
91 maybe.
Whatever.
It doesn't matter.
All movies from that time, every leading lady looks like a librarian. But the point, I mean,
Yes.
Sharon Stone is obviously,
She's the,
but even her, she's
outlier.
wearing like blazers and turtlenecks.
Demi
and
Moore and Sharon Stone and all these like the major sex pot sort of desirable leading ladies of the late 80s and early 90s were like adults.
well,
they were
that
not
was just, it was
children, they
also
were
the
not
style
infantilized.
though
Yes.
to wear clothes that made you look like you were an adult. And I think it's much sexier because it actually you have to imagine so much more.
Yes.
It was like, no, what I'm working with must be so amazing
It's suggestion.
that I can
Right.
wear this
Yes.
and still drive you crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, there were like, a lot of other things in culture happening that glorified naked women's bodies and all that type of stuff. But I do think that the style was look sophisticated.
Yeah.
And I think that that's something that you really see in this movie. These kids want to be grown up. They are posturing as being grown up. And I don't know. I feel like the kids I know that are younger now, it's really more about like embracing the commodity of youth.
Yes.
Like they look down on I look down on older people too.
Right.
That was, and I still do because I know everything now at 34.
You finally figured it out.
But I always knew everything.
Yeah.
It just I
know
just
more
always
everything
learned
now.
that everything I knew wasn't true, and now
Just
I
in
know.
time
Yeah.
before anyone else realized.
But
Yeah.
I just think that it's interesting to see the way that these kids like want to be adults in a different way.
Well, what does Jennifer Jason Leigh like sort of respect the most, or what is she most in awe of? It is the fact that Phoebe Cates is like over it.
Yes.
It isn't like, oh my God, she's had so much sex and I haven't. And
Right.
she's selling that sex is so exciting.
Yeah, Phoebe
and
Cates is
fun.
kind of like, oh, I had my wild period and now I've got my steady boyfriend who we
Right.
never see.
And so, like, that feeling of like the movie isn't centered around I gotta lose my virginity. It happens very quickly because what Jennifer Jason Leigh wants to do is go 6 steps.
Yeah, she just toddles right into a buzzsaw, which is she gets
Right.
picked up by a 20-something and thinks that's normal
Yes.
because God bless her. Like, he's showing interest and like he's a grown-up. He's
But
like,
what she says at the end of the movie, I had never heard it because I just wanted to have sex when I was watching this movie. Though, but what she
Yeah.
says when she says anyone can have sex, what I want is romance. And then Phoebe Cates says something to the effect of like, we don't even have we don't even have good pizza or something in this
Yeah.
town, and you want romance.
Yeah.
But
And Phoebe Cates has been this whole time talking about this like guy who she's like engaged to be engaged to.
yeah.
The implication that they have a more serious, mature relationship. But like, as you said, you get the sense of like, this is probably someone she slept with 4 times. This is someone who would like
Maybe.
call her when he was on break in between semesters. Like,
I don't even think he's real. I think that she's
sometimes-
fabricating it.
I sometimes think that he's made up, that he's like
Yeah.
a Canadian boyfriend.
Yeah.
But then the whole thing where she's crying at the
yes,
end.
exactly. I don't think she can
I'm
fix
like,
that.
this is a
She's
little
too pretty
too
to have
elaborate.
completely made that up. I'm
Agreed.
sorry.
That's the other part.
No,
I think
you're
it's
right.
more
Yeah.
someone that exactly is essentially just like has her on the side and
think-
she's taking it
I
seriously
think
because
it's
he's more
basically like
older.
if the guy that Jennifer Jason Leigh has sex with in the fucking dugout, right?
Mhm.
If she had slept with him 3 more times over 3 years, that's what Phoebe Cates has.
But then, like, I just love the reversal of once he's discarded her.
Yeah.
Phoebe Cates being like, he's a fucking stereo salesman. And it's like, if you knew he was a loser this whole time, which
Right.
he is clearly a loser.
Yeah.
Because he's picking up 15-year-old pizza
Yes.
waitresses. Like, why didn't you point that out before? Because she's, and I'm not saying Phoebe Cates is a bad friend. She's
No.
just like an affirming friend,
But
right?
she, I mean, I had that friend.
Yeah,
That friend
exactly.
that
Everyone
Yeah.
has that
you
That's
thought
what I was responding
Can
to.
you say it and then bleep it out?
Who it is? I
Yeah.
mean, it was kind of
Well-
like a composite. I
Okay.
feel like it was so many people.
Yes. Okay. I was just wondering if you were pinning it on one person. We don't need to say it or bleep it
No,
out.
but just the girl that you thought had
Yes.
everything, and then you get older and you realize she just
They're
probably had
kinda
a
full of
really
shit.
unhappy home life.
I will say
And that's
I will say this without naming the person, but there was like a friend of ours in high school who talked to me about losing their virginity very young in like this very kind of like, I got it over with. It didn't, I don't put a lot of value on that kind of thing. It was
Sure.
just whatever.
who.
In that kind of Phoebe Cates way. I'll tell you afterwards. And then like a year or 2 later, she slept with someone at our school and made a really big deal of it to me. And I was like, why are you making such a big deal of it? You'd already like had sex before. And then like 5 years after that
You
was
realize,
like,
okay.
no, of course I hadn't had sex before. You believed that story I told you?
Oh.
You know? And I feel like there's some of that with the Phoebe Cates character.
Mm-hmm.
And Jennifer Jason Leigh is like not being, she doesn't care about how she's perceived by other people. She is such a sincere person, but she's not
Yes.
naive. What she's really in pursuit of is like experience, right? Not just sexual experience, but she's like, I want to figure out what it's like to be a person, what it's like to be an adult,
Everyone
to try all
wants to-
these things,
in
to have
this wants to
heartbreak,
grow.
to have
Yeah.
feeling, like, right.
Except for Judge Reinhold,
Yes.
who feels like he's 45.
Yes,
Yes.
he does
As the
feel like
movie
he's
begins.
45.
Is
Why
he
is
still
his
a virgin?
name Judge?
No, he
Yes, yes.
Judge
I think
Reinhold?
I think his
He has
character's
the
a
steady
virgin.
girlfriend.
No,
But
I
there's
think-
that whole scene where he's saying to her, do you want to go to the point tonight? And she
Oh,
goes,
yeah.
for what? And he goes, and she goes like, I'm not going to use sex as a tool.
I've always taken that as like, again, with the 45ness, that he's like they're like an old married couple.
Oh my God, no.
They don't even have
He's
sex
never had
anymore.
sex.
No,
my
I think
read
it's
on
an
it-
important detail that
Yes.
he hasn't had sex yet, but
Correct.
his younger sister has.
And I think my other read on it is that moment of her saying, I don't want to use sex as a tool, comes 30 seconds after he's bragging to the other
She's
guy on the
great in
fry
bed.
line about how good she is in bed. And the immediate shutdown, I think I used to read it the way you're saying it. And this time I was like, oh no, it's complete posture. And he's just once again being like, maybe if we go to the point one more time, she puts out, which he's just
Right.
wrong about.
Interesting.
And she's over him.
To me, the joke of him is so much just like that he's old before his time, and is just acting like anyway. But yeah, I get it. I get it. I mean, I don't think him jerking off to Phoebe Cates really confirms it in either direction, because he's still a horny teen as much as he's like basically
As much as
filing
he's
his
45 years old.
1099, right?
Yeah.
You know, after he does
Well,
that or
and,
whatever.
Exactly. His iconic response in that scene.
One of the most incredible line readings
When you
of all
dig
time.
into it, what's so funny about it is his response, more than embarrassment of being caught, is like,
I was
kids
just
these
trying
days
to
have
knock
no
this off.
manners.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
It's just like, we don't
Jesus.
even knock
I
anymore.
can't even go fucking spy on the pool from the bathroom and like.
But
you know.
but his response is as if she
Yes,
interrupted
100%.
him building a fucking house of cards.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
You know?
or
Like,
doing his taxes. Like, you know,
totally.
like, yes.
Right.
And that scene again, 10, 15 years later, that scene is. I'm sorry to keep bringing up American Pie, which our friend directed,
Yes.
and is a funny movie. Like,
Yes.
but it's like that scene is a crazy set piece where something wild happens, and instead it's Phoebe Cates going like, "Oh."
Yeah.
And then be like, doesn't even fucking knock anymore.
It's
And like
so
that's
quick.
it. Like
That
and
moment's
it's
so
a
much quicker
huge
than you think
laugh.
it would be. And it's also not only that, immediately undercut by you're going with the slow motion iconic Phoebe Cates shot, right? And the Cars song playing and everything. And then, cross cutting between that and like Judge Reinhold just looking like a dork masturbating, which is a silly looking act, right? Especially if you're just
Especially
sort
if
of
you're
like
standing.
right. But then the immediate like puncturing of the reality before she even comes in and knocks is you cut to regular motion, Phoebe Cates getting out of the pool, and she's got water in her ear.
Mhm.
Like this immediate recentering of like, here's now replaying the actual version of her getting out of a pool, and she's like, ugh. And she plays it so well, it's so funny, but she's just sort of like walking weirdly.
She's so funny. I
Yeah.
love when Rat and Damone show up later
Mhm.
Yes.
and they like jump in the pool and they're roughhousing, and she's just like, ugh. Like,
Yeah.
immediately is like, I'm getting the fuck out of
Right.
here.
For both of them. But it is interesting. I have had conversations with people who I think incorrectly have said that like there is a how am I going to frame this? I'm relaying someone else's sentiment that I disagree with, okay? That like there is a necessity for the male gaze in the film ecosystem because films are sexual, and there is something about capturing female beauty that female directors can't do,
What?
and it has led to a sexless culture in film. This is a thing that I have had said to me by a person or two that I always was like, I don't really agree with your take. But also watching this movie, right? And I understand the scene is presented as parody, that it is sort of like a riff on these types of scenes in other movies. I'm also like, this is Amy Heckerling shooting what has become the basic high watermark for like male fantasy image in film.
Sure, yeah, the like slow motion MTV, whatever car commercial, like yeah,
Right.
The-
She
the-
did it better than any man could do it, and is also making it funny and commentary at the same time.
Totally.
absolutely. I mean, this is a genius movie that's beautifully directed.
Yes.
Wait, what was the take? That
Dude, I can't even begin to parse. You, I know you're trying to sum up
Correct. A bad
someone's
argument.
dumb argument.
Yes.
but that films have become sexless because women direct them.
because male
That's what I was
directors,
taking away too.
I think the framing of it was male directors have now been scared out of being horny as filmmakers. So those films have become sexless, and the only people who are allowed to depict sexuality are women, and women don't know how to shoot female bodies in a way that is actually titillating.
You know how
An
Mr.
insane
Burns
argument.
in his office has like a button that drops people into
Yeah,
a pit.
yeah,
I think
yeah.
that take needs to be dropped.
drop it
into
in
a
the fucking
pit.
Drop him in a pit.
Drop in a
He's
pit.
the one
I
bringing it
feel
onto
like
the airwaves.
Women are much more sexually creative than men
I
are.
agree. This is my point. Is like this scene is such a good example of that, and I think there are many movies that have come out over the last 10 years in particular that are great like arguments in that favor.
Yeah, we're arguing against a straw man who's not in the room, so I think we should move on.
Yeah.
We're
doing a lot of invoking
Tear
people who
him to
we refuse to name
shreds.
on mic in this episode.
All right, so Jennifer Jason Leigh's character, of course, is called Stacy, and she hooks up with Brad on the bench, the bleachers. What does it say? What's the graffiti that she focuses on? Fuck.
Something about surfers.
Yeah, or shark, like die shark.
Right. I think it's
like
the name of
sports.
the team. Yeah.
Right. I just love that she's just like, I guess I'm looking at this while I have this kind of seminal, life-changing experience.
But to what you said also, like Phoebe Cates is like, fucking go for it. When she's kind of like, I don't know, he is kind of cute, right? Like, I need your affirmation before I call this guy back.
Yeah.
Phoebe Cates is like, yes. And then immediately on the other end of it is like, that guy's a dork and a creep and a loser.
Yeah.
But yes, it's this feeling of like she just wants to get this over with.
100%. Right. Which is, I'm sympathetic to, obviously. But, she doesn't.
Sympathetic to, obviously.
Just the
also
feeling
never
of like, I just want to
realized-
get that out of the way. The like, the pressure of the first time, quote
Sure.
unquote.
I never realized until now, that they have sex on a fucking like wooden bench,
dugout.
in
The
a
other thing.
dugout, like disgusting.
For how much this movie was received within Universal and by the MPAA at the time is like, this is pornographic. This film is like toxic, X-rated, lewd. This film has 2 sex scenes, and both of them are basically as unsexy as a scene could possibly be and take place in the worst environments.
But
One
that's
is in a
wha-
no,
that's
the
dugout.
pool
why
house
they
was
were
sexy. The
shocked.
pool house is sexy.
The pool house scene is sexy.
Well, I think the build-up to it is
Yeah,
sexy.
yeah, the
It's not
build-up,
a
I'm
sexy
saying-
space.
I did a lot of sexy things in pool houses as a teenager.
Sure. I'm saying the moment he gets on top
Yeah,
of
but
her,
this
you
is-
become
Yes.
aware of like, oh, this couch is not big enough for their bodies, you know?
Yeah,
Like
yes.
the undressing is sexy, the kissing is sexy.
No, this is why they got the X rating. It's too realistic. It's
Exactly.
not that it's sexy, it's that it's realistic.
Right.
Like,
At the
that's-
time, everyone was like, this is too pornographic. And you're like, no, what you're actually responding to is this makes you uncomfortable
Yes,
because it's
100%.
honest.
The Ebert review, did JJ put it in his dossier? Let's see.
Who's this
yes, he did.
JJ?
JJ's our
JJ's our
researcher.
researcher.
If you want to go
So-
ahead and fire him quickly, feel free.
No,
It's-
no. I'm impressed by
You
it.
know,
It's
but-
kind of
Have
a
you read
gift
the
we offer
Ebert
to our
review?
guests.
Hmm.
The
Have you-
ability
have
to
you read
fire JJ.
Roger
Yes,
Ebert.
I have.
So Roger Ebert gave this one 1 star.
Yeah.
And it's a
What?
review I think
Wrong.
about all the time
Mhm.
because it is clearly written with the perspective that you're talking about. It
What did
begins,
Siskel say?
I don't know. I can find
Siskel
out.
gave it 1 boner up, probably. That guy was fucking horny.
The lead of the review is, how could they do this to Jennifer Jason Leigh? How could they put such a fresh and cheerful person into this scuzz pit of
This
a
is
movie?
his same fucking Blue Velvet review.
Yes, it's like, and I think he did somewhat soften with age and understand that maybe he was being a fuddy-duddy essentially with this stuff. But like, he's so scandalized because he feels for Jennifer. He's like, look, I can watch Animal House. That's a cartoon. I get it. That can be vulgar. I'm not opposed to vulgarity. But like, sweet little Jennifer
She's
Jason
giving
Leigh.
such an
Well, she's
emotionally
also
honest
like
performance.
Hollywood royalty in a
Yes,
way.
That's maybe
I can
part of it. Like,
understand
hey,
that.
you have a star on your hands here. So why is she in this like, lurid movie?
And
But
we'll
it's-
say to Ebert's credit, for someone of his stature and prominence,
Whatever happened to upbeat sex? Whatever happened to love and lust and romance and scenes where
Well,
good-looking kids had a little joy
this
and
is the guy
excitement
who
in life?
fucking wrote Russ Meyer's movies.
But,
I mean,
like,
that's
it's-
right.
He's just like, this is pure exploitation. And I'm like, bro,
It makes me feel
teenagers
bad.
have bad sex with each other all the time because they don't know what they're doing.
Adults have bad sex
Well,
with
that's
each other all
also
the
true.
time.
That's the revolution of this movie also is like showing things like that and not doing it in a tortured rebel without a cause way. Like
then-
being able to make it a fact of life.
Not to be all if a man directed this movie.
Sure.
But if a man directed this movie, her getting an abortion would be this like tragedy.
Yes.
Mm.
And it would be
Torrid.
this like awful experience the film really like, and instead it is a bummer fucking day that she has,
Yes.
but it is kind of something she's like, okay,
Well, and she's so strong too in that scene where
Yes.
she just says like, "No, I told my boyfriend to pick me up downstairs." Like, she doesn't make too much.
she's not sobbing
No.
on a couch. She's not confessing to her parent. Like, I just think Amy Heckerling gets this far more
I
than
agree.
like most
I
directors
also
would.
think a male director would make Damone worse
Or that.
defensively.
That's what I'm saying. It would just all be much
top of it.
more,
But you know what I'm saying?
over the top.
They would make that a lot more torrid and
Damone
tragic
just
and
doesn't know what to do.
tortured.
He fucking
Exactly.
came, 2 seconds into having sex with this person.
They would make Damone worse to make him more clear-cut piece of shit, to be like, well, he's a really bad example of a guy, versus
Right.
all of this guy's failings coming out of like a cowardice, a vulnerability, an insecurity. Like, I like that we see him making the calls, trying to get the
yes,
money.
I like
You
that
see
too.
him being
it's a sympathetic
tortured.
scene.
He makes some effort and then fails and is
And
too
it
cowardly to
sucks.
reveal
it
that he
fucking sucks, but you see
failed.
it on his face when he's making the calls of
Right.
him just being like,
But-
do I have the courage to go to her and say I don't have the
And
cash? Is it better to not show up?
There is also, to me, total emotional truth of like, do we see a scene later where she confronts him in the school? No.
No.
Like, obviously, he has the graffiti,
Yeah.
no, the confrontation is him and Rat almost fighting in the locker room or whatever.
Also, what's the bigger
and then
confrontation?
being like, whatever.
The bigger confrontation is her making 4 attempts to talk to him and him brushing her off, where it's like, that's the first offense, right? Of just like, he's acting like I don't exist. There's that amazing, I think it all plays out in one shot of Damone walking down the hallway like he's king shit.
Oh,
And for the
yes.
first time in the movie, you're like, oh, this guy's got real confidence now. He feels so good about himself because Jennifer Jason Leigh wanted to have sex with him. We just watched him have the worst sex of all time.
Right. And,
And yet
nonetheless,
he's taking it as a win that he was desired, and he's eyeballing the other girls in the hallway, right? He's making faces at them. He's like, I can get anyone. And then she walks up to him and he immediately shuts down.
It's so sad.
And it's like he's got this power of being like, I am someone a woman wants to have sex with. That makes me feel grown up and cool. And his greatest vulnerability is the one person in the world who actually knows what having sex with him is like, which is terrifying to him.
Right.
You know?
Right. I also think what's so interesting to the point of like, if a man directed this movie, would we have this incredible part? I feel like that archetype in the movie is, and this happens in Fast Times as well, but like, is the character that the woman should like, the
Yes.
good guy. And we see very clearly like why she doesn't as
Mhm.
well. Like I made the first move, I made the second move, I made every move. Like he's got that insecurity too. I like that though, we're not going like, no, don't be with Damone, be with Rat. We're like, well, I see why you wouldn't want to be with Rat.
And it's even better than that because it's like so many versions of this movie, she spends the entire film taking Rat for granted. And then only after
Yes.
she's been treated worse
she
by other
fucking
guys.
tries with
She
him.
tries.
She sits his ass down on her bed and he's like,
shows
"Mm."
she gets into
He
She
builds up the
undresses,
courage to
she
make
gets in
like
the little-
1/10 of a move, and she's totally open, and she gives him multiple shots, and then goes to her and is like, I think he doesn't like me. I don't get what the fuck is going on.
Yeah, and then later she's like, I think he's nice. Like,
Yeah.
when Damone is like, oh, I'm friends with Rat.
but I
she's
like you.
yeah.
I mean, she's so hot.
She is.
She's
She's a
so
babe.
hot that then she could go be in single white female and be so scary.
Yes.
And kind of hot, though.
Yeah.
And kind of hot too, for sure. I would wear those out. I mean, fashion icon.
She is
Yeah.
an icon.
She is
I would
an
say
icon.
in all ways. I was trying to describe her to my wife, who again is like so pop culture illiterate that like
Give her a context.
I'll be like, it's Jennifer Jason Leigh. She's like, I don't know who that is. Hard to kind of describe
Sure.
Jennifer Jason
She's
Leigh.
been like
Mega
10
cool for,
different things
right,
Yeah.
without
many
feeling like
decades.
she has defined phases.
Mhm.
But
Like,
you're like, right.
A major actress, but never quite the Meryl Streep type, right? Like more like sort of an indie arty
But
actress.
respected in that way.
Hugely respected by
Yeah.
everybody.
But and
can
I-
do
yeah.
character stuff,
Yes.
can do like comedy,
But I
can
feel
do,
like there was a moment in the 90s where there was kind of a quiet, like, is she the best actress working today?
Yes, there was. It's the sort of single white female shortcuts,
Right.
Hudsucker, Mrs. Parker, and the Vicious
Oh my
Circle,
God, her in
Georgia.
Shortcuts.
Yes.
But that's like an incredible
That's what
run.
I'm saying.
You
But
just
but
listed.
none of those movies are hits.
No.
Right?
And
Except
she
for
like
Single White
never
Female.
gets an Oscar nomination until Hateful Eight. It was
Right.
kind of like,
Wow, I did not know that.
yeah.
Yes. And like that, it's especially Mrs. Parker, Georgia, which are 2 Oscar snubs in a row,
Mhm.
right? Where it's like she played Dorothy Parker. You didn't like that? Like she like,
She did?
yeah, that movie rocks.
I
Even
haven't seen it. Maybe
Kansas
I'll watch that
City
today.
Was supposed
should.
to be a bit of an Oscar vehicle for her.
Which
Like,
one, sorry?
Kansas City was sort of
Well,
framed
and
as
that
right.
movie didn't go over
Yeah.
at all. And like, and
Have you ever
then
seen that movie, Lola?
No.
Altman's Kansas City is really good.
What? No, I have not seen that. I need to see it.
Prohibition jazz movie with Jennifer Jason Leigh, Miranda Richardson, and fucking Harry Belafonte.
It's a cool.
Damn.
Rules.
I just watched Copycat with Harry Belafonte and
Holly
Harry
Hunter.
Connick Jr. I'm tired. Sorry, I'm
Why did you watch Copycat?
Because I love 90s neo
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. That movie isn't even that good, but like the vibes are out of control at this
Does
point.
Harry Belafonte sing? Yes.
Yes.
And so does Harry Connick
They
Jr.
are, yes.
And they're
Yes.
both named.
They're
But
both Harry.
it is so funny to imagine confusing them. Their
Those-
Yeah,
their
no, I know.
personals. Yes.
Yeah.
There's a Miriam Makeba and Harry Belafonte record, which I really love and I highly recommend people listen to.
I just realized I have a better pitch. Kansas City is Altman doing jazz Thelma and Louise.
Oh, amazing.
It's
That's what
called
it is.
Amazing.
An Evening with Belafonte and Makeba. That's what the record's called.
It's really beautiful.
Jennifer Jason Leigh, right? And then by the late 90s, early 2000s, when you've got like Anniversary Party and
Mhm.
In the Cut and stuff, it's like right now she's already graduated to character actress in a way.
Yes.
Just an interesting career.
And not only character actress, but it's like she's either in kind of like small indies or bigger parts, or she's like in stuff like Road to Perdition, where you're like, she's in big movies, but in kind of entirely thankless
Fifth
roles.
role, yeah.
Right.
Whereas like Phoebe Cates obviously is a star throughout the 80s, and then it's like I'm marrying Kevin Kline, peace, and never
Great
appears
choice.
again.
Yeah.
I love when sex symbols do that. It's kind of like Brigitte Bardot being
I'll
like,
be preserved
I'm
in amber.
so like done with you guys looking at me, and
Yeah.
now I'm gonna go like breed dogs. I
Right.
think she breeds dogs.
Can we also just like frame of reference? Because I feel like this is a thing my dad would talk about all the time, and it's a little Gutenberg adjacent, but like the run Judge Reinhold has of just like 4 or 5 years of being at the center of the culture, where people
Okay.
were like, "Is Judge Reinhold just golden?"
Okay, so give it to me.
Well, I might get this order wrong, but I'm just like, Judge Reinhold is in Fast Times, Beverly Hills Cop, Gremlins.
Yep, true.
Give
He's
me-
also in Stripes.
He's also in Stripes.
Don't
Like
forget
80
Stripes,
to
which is the year before.
85 for Judge is insane.
It's pretty insane. I mean, yeah,
I know he's not the
it's-
guy in any of them,
that's the thing.
but I'm saying the through line of like, this guy keeps on showing up on the right sets.
He's very much
Wow.
around, but I do feel like he's a reliable white guy.
Yes.
Like to be like, not steal your movie,
And
right?
then is he
Like,
eclipsed by the other reliable white guy, Tom Hanks?
yeah, he just doesn't evolve, I guess.
Who's our reliable white guy now?
It's kind of still Tom Hanks.
Yeah, it is still Tom
I'm like,
Hanks.
I don't think that. Who's the young Tom Hanks?
Chris
I don't.
Pratt, of course. He's always playing relatable characters.
I think that's
Called like John Gunn.
Buffest high school science teachers or whatever.
I don't know. I don't know who are relatable. I mean, I think about Adam Scott in Severance, a show
Mhm.
that I love that I'm thinking about right now because it's there's a new season of it where he kind of exists in that world, right? Because he's being picked for that
I have
role.
the answer, but
Go
he's
ahead.
old.
Okay, who?
It's Paul Rudd still.
It is still
Right?
Paul Rudd.
Kind of, but he is actually.
But
getting
who's
too old.
young Paul Rudd?
That's her question.
Right,
I think
I
it's
know.
a fair
But
question.
you know what I'm saying? Like, obviously, Paul Rudd launches with Clueless. We'll talk about that in a couple weeks. But then it kind of takes another like 15 years for him to become a full-on movie star. So he basically at
And
like
what is it? What is it?
what is his movie star?
Yeah.
run? Oh my God.
Oh
Ben
my
ordered
God.
a pizza.
I'm so happy.
Oh my God.
There's a birthday party in here for me. Oh my
Wow.
God.
Ben, I just want to make clear that was an actual pizza order and not you hiring an actor to deliver a pizza because
No.
you've done that version of things too.
That's cool too. Wait, I
Ben
have to
will-
pee again.
Yeah, I'm going to pee after you.
Yeah, she's gonna be somebody's
Somebody's
only
only
light.
light.
She's gonna shine tonight. Yeah,
What's
she's
there's the one
gonna
where
be
he does the key change and
baby
the
tonight.
he goes really high at one point.
I try to shut
Jackson
my
Browne?
eyes, but I can't get her out of my sight. Bow down.
Ben, thank you for one of the best tasting bits we've had in a long time on the show.
That was amazing.
We had to take a break so people didn't hear us chewing.
Yeah, you're so welcome.
Yeah.
All right. So
That's the part I was thinking of.
yeah,
It's
right.
so
Yeah.
good.
We've talked about JJL.
Yeah.
We've talked about Phoebe. We've talked about Damone and Rat. Do we have any more? No, we've talked about them. It's not.
I think this is a movie where you just kind of have to go through moments, and I know
Yeah,
we're
are there
doing
any
it
other
wildly out of
moments we
order
haven't
because it's
hit?
hard to kind of track.
Yeah,
Even
We
the
talked
character
about
threads?
Forrest Whitaker.
Mhm.
Mhm.
His little brother makes me laugh so hard.
It's really
Is he gonna
fun.
shit? Is he gonna kill us?
You know what's a really good, very skillful, but like not overstated thing?
What?
the scene where after having sex with Damone, Jennifer Jason Leigh is asking Phoebe Cates about how long.
Right. And
Oh,
Phoebe's
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
like 30 to 40 minutes.
Right. Well, no, I think at first she
Phoebe
says,
says 20 to 30, and JJL is like
yes.
I thought you said he took longer.
30 to 40, and she's
Right.
like, well,
right,
you know,
30 to 40. And he
Yeah.
goes, what about Damone? And he goes, like,
10 to 20.
right. And she goes, not bad for a high school boy. What are they doing while having that conversation? Chopping up a big ass
Yes,
sausage.
Pepperoni.
Yes,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
amazing. Also, I always
They're just
used
fucking
to,
cutting dicks.
I wanted in high school, like I remember that carrot scene so well when she's teaching her how to give the blowjob and then
Yeah.
all the boys clap.
Yes. And
I
I like
thought-
that the reaction is not embarrassment.
Yes,
No.
me
Yes.
too. Me too. It's so cool. They're so cool.
To
but
go back to
the way that she then bites the carrot at
Yes.
the end is so fucking good. They're just so chill.
You were saying
Couple of chillers.
the bag
Couple of chillers.
tagline on the poster that's just pen at the chair with a
Yeah.
surfboard and a textbook and two
And ladies.
babes. Right. Average on high, only the rules get busted. The other posters I saw on the IMP Awards site,
Mhm.
my favorite poster resource, there's this one that's like a painting of a topless woman from behind on a beach.
Yep.
Pulling off her bikini bottoms and like Spicoli going like, whoa!
Yeah, that's the one I remember.
Right. And Fast Times is written on her back in what I assume is supposed to be suntan lotion, but looks a little bit like ejaculate. And the tagline is literally, you loved Porky's, now turn yourself loose on
Right.
some Fast Times.
Right.
And then there's this one that's like the very Animal House sort of Jack Davis Mad magazine
Fast
sort of
Cars,
cartoons. Fast cars.
girls,
Fast
carrots,
carrots,
fast
dot, dot, dot.
carrots.
Yeah. That's the
Oh,
tagline.
hilarious.
No,
Okay, I get
It's
it.
just very funny how weird all
They
the
don't know how-
approaches to
because
selling
it's
this movie
like-
were.
you know, it's hard to just sell this movie because it's basically just about high schoolers hanging out.
Outside of knowing Spicoli was Money in the Bank, that
Yeah.
was the one thing they seemed to be very clear on.
They know that, and they know Spicoli's different,
Mhm.
right? You know, his look is kind of different, so that's cool, and it's more modern. Again, it's not a vintagey movie like Animal House
When
or something
is
like
Valley
that.
Girl?
Valley Girl's like the year after.
Okay,
because
that's
Valley
right,
Never
Girl
because
seen
it's
Valley
Cage.
Girl.
Cage
That's
is
his
getting
first,
Cage off of this.
Ah.
Valley Girl, you would like. Lola.
Cage
I'm
says,
gonna
like-
need
A syllabus?
A syllabus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's another of the few that is directed by a woman, Martha
Can I be
Coolidge.
nostalgic about something?
yeah.
I'm just remembering that this was a thing in high school that for your birthday, you would say, Mom, Griffin's going to pick 10 movies and can you buy them for me? Do you remember that?
Oh, like vaguely.
Yeah.
That's so sweet.
Are there any other scenes we want to hit?
Yeah,
I was thinking we pointed out that there's no grown-ups, right?
Yes.
There's-
Yeah.
Only teachers.
But no, there is another presence of grown-ups, and that is the managers of the restaurant.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
They're
who are like
bosses.
They're bosses and
25.
teachers.
Like,
Are-
who are, yeah,
Yeah.
like
They're
the
the
little
biggest
stooges.
tools.
Yes. Because
I
they
love
take
that.
it even more seriously.
Right.
They're like, hey, come on, was
But
this guy
also,
bothering
like the guy
you?
who works at fucking Captain Jack, like the manager,
Yes.
where he
Makes
makes
him
him wear
that's
the
the
uniform.
Stuart Cornfeld.
Like, oh
Yeah.
my god,
uniform.
it's so
him
corny.
flirting with the girl is so funny with that fucking hat on.
And that
it's
is
so funny.
that is Nancy Wilson,
That is Nancy Wilson, is
who
the
then
beautiful girl.
becomes Cameron Crowe's wife. Nancy
Correct.
Wilson from Heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anthony Edwards, Pamela Springsteen,
Mhm.
Martin Brest is the doctor. Like,
yes,
there's a
when they
lot
go
of,
to the morgue, that's Marty Brest.
Oh wow,
there's
looking
a lot of
pretty handsome.
cameos, and of course the great Taylor Negron delivering the pizza.
I mean,
Who's that?
he's just a guy who's
He was,
got a
like-
great face.
Yes.
Oh, yes, I did recognize
yes,
him.
sort
Yeah.
of like
What
an,
else is
an
he in?
early
He's in a
comedian, and then is in a
billion
million
things.
things in this sized role.
He's a
'Cause
classic that guy.
He's one of those guys where his voice is so funny, his vibe is so funny, and his look is so specific that you can be like, hey, will you show up for 3 lines to just hand over a pizza and it will be funny? It is one of my favorite things of all time.
Yeah,
feel like-
his vibe in that scene is amazing.
You can look him up and be like, oh, right, he's that guy in 20 other movies. He passed away a couple of years ago. I think it is the funniest thing in the world. Do you know the Mulaney, Stefan Taylor
Yes, the
Negron
Taylor Negron
story?
thing, but
No.
we're not doing that right now. No, Griffin, we're trying to wrap up this episode. No, no. People Google it.
I'm giving the look.
I'm gonna Google it.
You,
Lola's curious. She
Lola's
wants-
got to go.
No,
So
no.
you cannot complain later, Griffin, if we didn't talk about something.
I won't complain later. Here's what I'll say.
I'm getting a pizza while you do this.
Oh, you're getting a pizza? So I wasn't going to tell the story, but now I have to. I was not going to. I was going to move on. Lola,
Yeah.
remember the Stefan, Bill Hader, Saturday Night Live Weekend Update bit where he was the guy who would list, like, this club has everything?
No.
Fuck,
so
this
it
really
just-
isn't going to work.
enough.
I'm sorry. I missed a lot of SNL.
That's right, but Dave, what am I going to do while you're chewing on pizza?
We'll talk about the movie. What do you mean?
Oh, boy, Ben's chewing too.
Everyone's chewing around.
I know. Lola and I are the only two people trying to chew the fat and have a conversation.
Yeah,
Then go
Jesus
on.
Christ.
Okay.
Okay. Everyone dances so well at the school
Oh my
dance.
God, there's one. I think it's Forrest Whitaker's character is dancing like amazing.
He is killing it. They're all so good
It's
in a
so
way where I'm
cool.
almost like, that is the one thing that's not authentic to high school. No, at least my school was not.
Sure.
Is
No
the
one's
band
like
also
that.
too good?
I think
Yeah.
so.
In that kind of movie way of like, you're
Well,
not
they
gonna
had
get-
to
yeah.
have some elements of cinema, you know?
Here's the other thing with Forrest Whitaker. When he has this sort of, I guess, post-drama school second wave, earnest start of his career, he's like bulked up a lot, right? And then he's like increasingly a bigger and bigger guy. And then I feel like after Last King of Scotland, he slims way down.
He did get trimmer, it's true.
This is the one movie where he's just fucking like an absolute unit,
Yeah.
right? Because he's such a tall guy, but now he's gotten so slim that you don't think about it in the same way. Where in this, it's like, oh, he's a fucking quarterback.
I do think, well, he's not a quarterback.
What position is he?
It seems like he's a tackle. He's because
Okay.
he's
Oh
like
my
a
God.
defensive.
I wouldn't
We
know
don't
the difference.
know.
Frankly, I wouldn't. You have to
These-
tell me.
They
these
went to
things.
Saint
Saint
Anne's
Anne's.
ass.
Went to
Fucking
Saint Anne's.
nerds.
What's
Football,
wrong with your wife?
football's illegal there.
I just like that anytime David tries to mock me for going to
Mock
that
her too.
school,
Are you kidding me?
I'm like, you fucking married into it.
I fucking
You
mock-
married into it.
I don't like having gone there either.
Oh, whatever.
I
you
liked
went
it.
where you went. You didn't get to pick.
I didn't get the pick.
Yeah.
What do
I
you
want-
mean? It was an amazing
I
school.
want
We
to
were
go to
so lucky.
LaGuardia.
Oh, well,
You
could
were
have gone to the.
involved.
Yes, my mom wouldn't let me go because my dad said I was going to end up dancing on top of taxi cabs.
Okay, I know we don't have a lot of time, but I'm just interested. What was everybody's job in high school? I'll share mine first.
okay.
I was a stock boy at a local market.
So my major, like, honestly, how I made my money was as a babysitter. I was a really good
Yeah.
babysitter.
Oh, I could see that. You seem like you would have been a trustworthy kid.
And well, not just that, I was always just given boys, right? Like the
Mhm.
parents they were just like, I don't know what these boys, they're climbing up the walls. Like, I need to get out of that. Like I was good because I knew how to chill out like 9-year-old boys, which is you played video games all day, obviously. It's not like I was like enriching these kids' lives. But I was also a receptionist at a doctor's office, which
Wow.
is crazy
That's
to think
mature.
about
Yeah.
for like 2 summers in a row, which is crazy to think about because like I was like handling medical records or whatever. I mean, my job
That's
was just
insane.
basically like making appointments and being like, okay, like
I had the
He's
perfect
ready for
job
you.
for being a stoner. I would show up late all the time and just like restock
clack,
milk.
Yeah.
clack,
Yeah.
clack,
Yeah.
putting cans on shelves.
Exactly.
I feel like I didn't have a good job for being a stoner because I worked with children as well.
Right, that's what I
Um,
did.
But I
yeah.
worked at a daycare center in Chinatown
Yeah,
with mostly only kids that spoke Chinese
Yeah.
and me.
yeah, it was babysitting
Did you learn any
and
Chinese?
like daycare,
No, but
preschool stuff. Yeah,
but I mean, there's different dialects, obviously, and some of the kids didn't even speak the same language.
I've tried to explain this to people. It is tough getting high school jobs when you grow up in New York City because everyone wants jobs in New York City so badly.
Right.
Oh my God. Yeah.
You know
I
that the
never thought
things
of
that
it
are
that
sort of
way.
like good entry level jobs for
Sure.
teenagers
like a
are
Starbucks
are like
position.
competitive here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
you do have to kind of find like weird sideways under the table things.
But I loved that job. It was my favorite job I've
Yeah.
ever had.
Yeah.
More than any acting job.
That
More
is
than
that is
Gone
the
Girl? What the fuck?
I have
No, I'm
always
kidding,
said
I'm
is
kidding.
the only other thing I think I would be happy doing in my career
Is working with kids.
is like being a preschool teacher. Yeah,
Yeah, I worked at the
Yeah.
preschool at St. Anne's too.
right. And then when I dropped out of college, I went and worked there.
Oh, you
More,
literally worked.
I
there.
literally, yeah. I mean, I was like floater sub stuff, and they were sort of like, if you want to really do this, you have to go back to school.
Right.
And I was like, that sounds like a bump.
Guys, I
Griffin
have to go.
walking in
Okay.
15 minutes late to St. Anne's preschool
Yeah.
with a bunch of blank street
I don't
coffees.
like this bit.
Bit.
I got Lola tea.
He got me tea to help me get through.
Yes.
Lola, before you go, because
Yeah.
we can wrap without you, but is there anything else you want to say about Fast Times at Ridgemont High?
I'm just so happy that I got to watch it again. It made me feel so like good inside.
It's really a really special movie.
I read this quote of hers on IMDb trivia, where she
Great
said,
website.
"I wanted to make something that if like a movie that if you woke up inside it, you'd be happy."
I think she fucking nailed it. And I think, by the way,
because this movie's also a bummer, but
Totally.
it is nonetheless the end is I am really happy
But
when
I
he
think
clocks
that's the
that guy.
Heckerling part of it is there is a very positive spirit to this movie, but if it were artificially happy, it would not create the same warmth. If it felt like it was in ignorance of reality, right? And I think when I think about why these like 80s high school movies are this ultimate comfort food for me, it is that they're
Yeah.
able to like create the sense of fun and individuality and the music and the clothes and whatever. But the ones I like also have like they're touching on sadness, you know, and like broken aspects of the human condition. And I think, you know, at John Hughes's peak, the thing that people would say, and especially the actors he worked with, were like, it's crazy. He like, there's like a teenager still inside of him. He knows how to write as if it's still so like present and immediate for him, right? And this movie isn't that in an interesting way. It is like a 22-year-old who never been kissed his way into a high school, and a woman who never had this kind of experience at a high school. And there's like a little bit of remove, and it has this level of like adult perspective on these experiences while respecting the characters.
Yes.
Yes. Recognizing what's funny about them and what's silly about them, but also what's like sad about them and what's uncomfortable and all of that. It's like a very unique film. Lola,
Thank you for being with us, Lola.
book is called Wild West
Oh.
Village.
Yeah.
The new album is called
Trailblazer.
Sinners, coming out
Yeah.
1 week ago.
1 week ago. I
Hot
love you,
Lola,
Griffin,
winter /
forever.
spring. I love you, Lola.
Thank you for having me, guys. This was so fun.
We'll see you in 8 years. I'm
I
joking.
think 6.
I think 2. Let's call
All
it.
right. That
Yeah.
sounds fine. But you live in Nashville. I mean, like, Lola's not always here. It's hard. Bye, Lola.
Bye.
See you later.
Okay, that was a door slam.
Bam.
Yeah,
Lola's gone.
Lola's gone.
Never to return.
Yeah, no,
No, she'll be
no.
back.
Let's make this the final part of the conversation. Okay, I mean we're talking about the summer job or the high school job thing.
Yeah.
I do think it's what you were saying about like Brad's whole thing being taking this so seriously and priding himself on how much he's good at it.
Sure.
And these guys who are just a couple years older than him and have such an attitude and such a sense of superiority. The final note of the movie is like Brad's great victory being that he gets promoted to manager really quickly, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Like, because he
this
stops a
movie-
robbery.
This movie nails the like Chiron, what happens to the characters shit.
I mean, the Chiron, those are so funny. We should also say Brad is the closest thing the movie tries to do a hero. He steps
Yes.
up for his sister in this like non-obnoxious way.
It's just a
He's so
beautiful,
sweet with her
right? Him
in
dropping
a-
her off
right.
at bowling. He's immediately sort of
He's
like
like, what?
bowling
You know?
with friends. He drops her off. He gets stuck in like an intersection.
Yeah, he notices
and
where
catches
she's really
in the
going.
rear view window.
and he
her
waits for
crossing
her.
the
It's not
street.
like he barges upstairs.
he waits for
He
her
just waits outside,
patiently.
and he's just super chill about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, but then of course, yeah. Then James Russo, we should shout out fellow Beverly Hills Cop member
yeah,
trying to stick
yes.
up the 7-Eleven or whatever it is.
oh, shit.
Yeah, who's really funny.
Right.
Wow.
He's Axel's partner at the beginning of the movie. But I love the sort of efficiency of like how quickly he comes in, spray paints the camera and takes the gun out. Like this guy moves so fast that even though he's not wearing a mask or anything, it's like disorienting of you don't have time to respond, which is what he's counting on, right?
I also think it's important that like the most put together and least put together characters kind of unite at the end, who don't have anything to do with each other, Spicoli and Brad.
Yeah.
To solve this problem.
There's like an incredible restraint of this movie not forcing the characters together in like obvious overlap ways. And you'll have like Jennifer Jason Leigh being in Spicoli's class, but it's not like it's building to any specific interactions with them.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Like the plot lines don't really cross over that much.
Not really. I should.
Which makes it fun when at the end it's like, oh, right, these two guys haven't interacted.
I also think we should shout out that Rat takes Stacy to some sort of German
I can't believe we didn't talk
fucking
about this.
Oktoberfest ass, mall store. With like the nastiest farts are going to be coming out of you on
Yes.
this
Oh,
date.
God,
You're eating
yeah.
like bratwurst or whatever.
Not only-
There's like
Knockwurst.
sauerkraut on
Not
the
only
table.
that, Jennifer Jason Leigh is a tiny woman.
She's tiny. They drink like
Rat is a
18
tiny
Cokes,
person.
right?
They're
They-
also sitting in the biggest chairs of all
it's
time.
so funny. It's like the least
visual
good vibe
of them
Yeah.
in like the most grown-up, stodgy, bad-smelling, like angry server's place, sitting in these chairs that look like they're swallowing them. And then he realizes he doesn't have his wallet on him, and she does like a full kind of like Mel Brooks musical sting Like
Right.
he's in a thriller suddenly, and he keeps just ordering more and more cokes to delay to get Damone to drop off the wallet, which of course is the fatal move that fucks him. But
Yeah.
what really fucks him is I
He's too
misspoke.
scared to make a
It's
move.
that's the mistake. Yes,
Yeah, he's just not ready, man. They
Yeah.
just gotta kind of circle around. And
but that
they
sequence
find
is
each other
so
better.
funny.
Yeah. Damone gets busted for scalping Ozzy Osbourne tickets.
Mhm.
Mr. Vargas switches back to coffee.
Mhm.
Linda, of course, starts dating her professor
Mhm.
in college. Rat
Yes.
and Stacy haven't gone all the way yet.
Spicoli
Cute.
saves Brooke Shields
Right,
and then
and
spends
then
all his
blows
money.
all the reward
Hiring
money.
Van
Very
Halen to play
funny.
his birthday party sounds like a good party.
But Brad gets promoted to being the manager of this gas station. And a thing I really like, if you watch that, it is very clear that they didn't get enough footage.
uh-huh.
And so
Okay.
the footage that is running over or underneath the Chiron for Brad, where he's standing above the body with the gun and it looks like he keeps readjusting,
Mhm.
is the same clip played backwards and forwards like 3 times.
Right.
If you notice, he starts to do weird like
Oh,
movements. He's going Black Lodge.
I was just gonna say we should shout out the football scene. It's really funny.
I don't give a shit about football.
I
It
just
is
think
really
I
funny.
just think it's like really funny physical comedy.
Sure.
And
Yeah, it's good.
I think she does a really good job with like just making it so over the top.
But that's what's crazy. Like, it's in the dossier, but that she grew up loving Mad Magazine. That like that's her sensibility, right?
Yeah.
This sort of like comedic exaggeration, and we'll totally get that in Johnny Dangerously and talk about that. And even Clueless is like a much more stylized, heightened movie, right? And you know that it was another thing JJ put in the dossier, but that when she was growing up and she loved movies, she was like, "What's my career path? I only know of one female director." And she would have to point to her parents and be like, I guess I want to do what Elaine May does, because that was the only person she could sort of point at as an aspiration. And Elaine May's movies are like a lot more heightened, you know? I just think this movie being able to do both and cut between them so quickly, and so much of this movie will play out in montage, you know, and we'll have these sort of sequences beyond even our primary characters, just catching like 5-second glimpses of random kids or featured background actors or people who have like under 5 roles. And it's just sort of like, here's what everyone's doing in class. Here's what everyone's doing at the mall. Here's what everyone's doing at the dance. And they feel like Mad Magazine, like Sergio Aragonés, like weird marginal drawings. And then she can like have a scene that has real emotion in it. And neither one is like fighting against the other. And I struggle to think of other movies that are good at holding both tones at their most extreme ends. And not, as you're saying, David, sort of doing a movie that is like funny and goofy for the first 45 minutes, and then she gets an abortion and it becomes really serious for 30 minutes.
Her mistakes come back to haunt her.
And then
It's just
suddenly
shitty
there's a
version of this
stretch
movie.
with 0 jokes. Like, I just kind of can't believe how beautifully she lets this film be everything. Which also feels reflective of like being a fucking teenager.
It captures the energy
Yep.
It's
of
the
that
energy.
time.
That's
And the
why it's
wild
good.
emotional swings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Now,
why it's good.
now you saying, does it kind of fuck her that she's got a movie this good out of the gates?
Tough.
That
It's
it's
tough
tough
to
to beat.
follow it up.
I think it does help her that the movie is a bit of a slow burn that grows. So it's not like it lands with such an impact that she's stuck under the shadow forever.
No,
I think
but
weirdly, over time, it becomes a bigger sort
But
of
it-
shadow for her.
I mean, like she doesn't. I mean, Johnny Dangerously, her next film is not very successful,
no.
and then she makes European Vacation, which is successful,
Mhm.
but is not exactly her movie or her success, really.
But she's sort
So
of,
it takes till Look Who's Talking
Yes.
for her to really have like sort of like a major success again.
Which we'll
and that
obviously
is
get
a
to,
huge success.
but
yes.
Look Who's Talking is like a revenge movie. Like, Look Who's Talking is a Raiders of the Lost Ark. Like, I need to make something that's undeniable. That's a franchise. That's a blockbuster. You know, it was a very strategic move for her. But that's the first one that she's like fully creating and conceptualizing herself.
Yeah.
It's an interesting career that I'm very excited to talk about. This is a director that we've been threatening to do for so long.
yeah, no, she's been on our list from the
A
beginning.
Decade of Dreams.
So this film came out August 13th, 1982.
Mhm.
So it's like a pretty quiet, trashy time like late summer back then is not a real blockbuster time, as you'll see from what's in the box office.
And as you said, it's like this movie is conceived of as like maybe this is our new Animal House or American Graffiti or whatever. Then they get scared, they suppress it, and then it sort of catches on. So then they try to catch up with the demand, but they never quite
It did okay.
nail it.
It made, I think, 22 mil, something like that. It's opening number 7 on 500 screens.
Okay.
So number 1 at the box office is also new this week. It's the big hit of the week, and it is a horror sequel.
Is it a Halloween?
No.
Is it a Jason Voorhees?
Yes, it is a Friday the 13th.
Is it 2?
No.
It's 3 already?
Friday the 13th, part 3.
So it was 80, 81, 82, 3 consecutive years?
They made them every year.
They were on a paranormal schedule. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, their movies were made quickly, and obviously the whole point was to kind of. But then I think
3? 3 is the first hockey mask one, right?
Yes. 3 is good.
Uh-huh.
It is not my favorite,
but it is the one that kind of codifies the whole Jason thing.
In the
way.
I guess so. I mean, 2 is pretty.
Yeah, but 2 is Sackhead in fucking overalls.
Yeah, I guess so. 3 is also the 3D one, so in whatever,
okay, yeah.
Because that was hot back then. And then 4, the final chapter,
sure,
is the one with Crispin Glover that I think is really good and is kind of
wild that they ended it there and never made any other
right.
ones.
And then 5 is really bad in my
what
opinion.
do you mean? The last one was the final chapter.
And then 6 rocks. 6 is my favorite.
I'm confused. That's 2 past the final chapter.
And yet they
what
keep
you're saying,
they
that's
keep
not,
doing it.
The math ain't mathin'.
The math ain't mathin'. So that's number 1 at the box office.
Okay.
Teens are going to see that, obviously. Number 2 at the box office, and it's been in the box office for 10 weeks. It's made $200 million, and it's going to be the most financially successful film ever made.
Is it a film we have covered recently on the show?
Recently.
It is called E.T. the Extraterrestrial.
That's right. Obviously the biggest hit of 1982. Number 3.
Obviously, up until that point, the biggest hit of all
of
time.
movies.
Yes.
Number 3 is another giant hit of the year. I already mentioned it. A big romantic drama.
It's an Officer and a Gentleman. David,
Yes,
is
that's
it
right.
off? Okay, slow response time.
Sorry.
That was a real kind of throwback,
It
and I'm
is
David.
An Officer and a Gentleman with Deborah Winger and Richard Gere.
Okay.
Jesus.
What?
Just noticing that there's just a knife on
Griffin
the desk.
Lola
or
called this out.
somebody. Yeah.
Look, here's a little peek behind the curtain in terms of a weird record order. That was the knife that Gethard used to open the box of Kit Fisto presents.
Right.
Which for the listener will have been 3 months ago, but in our reality was 3 days ago.
Yeah.
And Lola was playing with the knife.
Number 4 at the box office is
we run a proper business.
musical comedy
It's a
with
workplace.
big stars.
It's a musical comedy with big stars in 1982.
Yes, it is. I think actually a solid hit.
It's a solid hit.
It gets 1 Oscar nomination for supporting actor.
Oh, it's Best Little Whorehouse in Texas?
The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas, starring Burt Reynolds and Dolly Parton.
But Academy Award nominated Charles Durning performance.
Yes.
I've never seen that film.
Neither have I.
I often invoke Charles Durning as one of my 10 favorite actors of all time.
Great actor.
I have seen his number in that probably 20
He's
times.
the governor.
Yeah, and he does is his number called Sideshow or Soft Shoe?
His number is called The Sidestep.
The Sidestep, thank you.
Number 5
It's
at the
very
box
good.
office is a film that was released in
It's
1977.
about using weasel words as a politician to spin the narrative.
They never do that.
But
That's crazy.
the thing is, he starts literally doing a little sidestep, even though he's talking about it metaphorically. I'm sorry, go on, David.
It's a film that came out in 1977. It's been re-released clearly.
Oh, I think it is called Star Wars.
That's right.
Okay.
The film Star Wars. You've
film
also
Star
got Fast Times at Ridgemont High, of course. You've got The World According to Garp.
Uh-huh.
You've got a action comedy with Cheech and Chong called Things Are Tough All Over, which is, I guess, not a
Proper Cheech and Chong movie.
Well,
I think that's
it is. I think it's the 4th one.
Are you sure about that?
I don't know.
I feel like I might be very wrong about this. I've never seen the film. My thought was always that was more of a Cheech vehicle that Chong is in. That was them starting to figure out what their post-duo careers
I guess
were.
so. But
Am
it's
I
billed
wrong?
as about Cheech and Chong take a cross-country trip.
So then maybe I'm fucking wrong.
I don't know. I think you're thinking of something else.
I am.
Maybe. But I'm not sure.
Okay.
But they also, because it's in between Nice Dreams and Still Smoking.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
You've got Night Shift.
Sure.
which
Keaton,
is the
poppin'.
Michael Keaton film, right?
Yeah,
With,
Keaton gives one of the
Henry
greatest
Winkler.
debut performances in film history.
Damn. Ron Howard film, obviously.
Yeah.
And you've got Rocky 3.
I mean, I know we say this very often when we play this game. Pretty good eating at the Cineplexes.
Yeah, I would agree.
There's a
I would
good
agree with
spread. It's
that.
not,
Sure.
I mean, there are a couple undisputed classics, but I'm also just like they're big cultural movies. They're popular hits. There's a lot of
Yes.
big things coexisting.
Yeah.
So
it's
you're
just,
saying they ate.
They
but you've got 2 part 3s in here. There's a little bit of things are getting a little
I agree with you.
samey, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, you got a musical, you got a big grown-up drama.
Yeah.
I mean, it's August. For August, this is not bad.
For August, this is incredible.
So that's what's happened there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it.
Wow, that's what happened there, and that's it.
I think that's it.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah, I think that's what happened there, and that's it. Excited to go on this Heckerling journey.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Have neither of you seen Johnny Dangerously?
No.
No.
Why would I have seen that?
No.
Yeah.
It's like not available.
Yeah, get
How
ready.
am I gonna see it?
We'll find a way. I'll say this. I mean, we're recording this some months in advance. We're like, can we convince someone else to make Johnny Dangerously more viewable by the time this comes out?
We're working on it.
We're working on it. But in the meantime, might be a great time to sign up for ExpressVPN.
Is it available on
I feel
Other
like I
countries or
watched it
whatever?
on like Disney Plus Croatia or something
Oh,
a couple
yeah.
months ago when I was doing my Keaton watch through. And if you remember in a past ExpressVPN ad read when I hinted that I had to use it to watch an upcoming director's movies, that was it. I'll say this, I have and part of it's a personal challenge. I want to get physical copies of all the movies of whatever the miniseries is. This has been the most difficult one of any director we've ever covered.
Yeah.
Fast Times Criterion. Johnny Dangerously, this is a straight up bootleg. It's a very good bootleg. It's a straight up bootleg. European Vacation weirdly seems to be out of print as a solo. And I
Uh-huh.
wanted the solo rather than it as a box set or a double feature.
But
with
that
other
one I
vacations.
assume is available on like iTunes
Yes.
or whatever.
I think
right?
the Look Who's Talking disc is out of print. There's no Blu-ray for the 2 sequels. Clueless is okay. Loser I had to import from Australia. It might be the single most expensive Blu-ray I've ever
Jesus.
purchased. And then I believe I Could Never Be Your Woman came from Denmark.
Wow.
Those are the only countries those two
Yeah,
have been
I mean,
released in.
all of these things.
Vamps got an okay
all of the
release.
movies he just said, except for Johnny Dangerously, are streamable for iTunes or whatever. But,
Yes.
So I will probably just be doing that. But
Yep.
I guess I'm going to buy this Johnny Dangerously DVD. I don't know.
I'll send you the link.
Oh, sure, to the bootleg.
Thank you to Lola for being here.
Yes, thank you, Lola.
Yeah.
Thank you to all our future guests
Oh, well, hey, a big thank you to all our future
and
guests.
past guests.
Let's throw it back to the past guests. It's been a decade of dreams. We couldn't have done it without them. Tune in next week for Johnny Dangerously.
Next week is Johnny Dangerously,
Mhm.
and then European Vacation. Wow.
And on Patreon, at this point, we are doing Superman. Is that correct?
Oh God, Griffin,
looking up in the
it's so
skies.
true that we are
It's
doing
so true.
Star Trek finished. I think we're about to start Superman.
Okay.
About to start it.
We're about to start it. We're
Yes.
doing Superman. We're
in just a couple days. We'll be covering the film Richard Donner's Superman. Have you heard of this guy?
Man of Steel, which we've owed for a long time.
Yeah. It's one of the movies we'll discuss.
Yes, and then it will lead straight into Superman Returns, a movie we love, made by entirely unproblematic people, and then leading straight into a new released episode on the James Gunn Superman parenthetical 2025. Fun series.
Yep.
Excited to do it.
Mhm.
Everyone's happy.
Sure.
I'm excited to go back to eating pizza.
Yeah.
Thank you all for listening.
You know what, though?
Hmm?
I want to do this.
Ben's holding up a finger.
We're going to actually, at the end of the episode, include a clip
What?
to a section of our Superman episode.
This is
Oh,
a bold
okay.
new idea.
Just give a little sample, a little
Okay.
taste of what's available on the Patreon.
Interesting. We haven't recorded that episode yet. What if it sucks?
Fuck.
What if it's
We're just
dog
like,
shit?
what's going on? Who's
Yeah.
that? Why did the movie, the picture, we don't know what editing is. The picture's different.
What
it
if
was
we,
a picture of one guy and now it's a picture of another
whoa,
guy.
This motherfucker flies?
what if we respond to Christopher Reeve flying like it's the train coming into
No,
the
I think it
station?
should be more idiotic than that.
Guys coming towards me.
They do like a close up of his head, and we're like, his head got cut off. It's only his head.
It's getting so big. His head's getting so big.
Where does his head go? Where's the body? Oh my god! Should I buy the Arrow Limited the Cell disc?
Oh boy.
I don't fucking know,
It's
man.
the Barnes
I'm
and Noble
starting-
sale going on right now.
This
And I've
whole
been
thing
trying to
with
get
these
the
DVD
Arrow
companies where they're like,
Inglorious Bastard set, but it's sold out everywhere. And so I keep checking to see which stores have it in stock for pickup because they won't do ship to home.
Sure, right.
What?
Right.
This is what we were talking about with Bilga of like some movie you think is okay gets
Yeah,
a
I'm like, I
lovingly
don't
restored
need the
extra
cell.
set.
I think the cell's pretty good.
Yeah. But
Like,
you
and
like that someone put in the time.
I liked the cell more than critics, and now I probably
Sure.
like it less than whoever's in charge of culture.
Yeah.
because it's become canonical or whatever.
Remember when we were trying to end this episode?
Yeah, all right, we're done.
No, we're not done. I haven't done the thing to end the episode yet. We went on a couple side tangents. And as always, I'm going to put the knife away.
Williams' score here is so good. This overture
The
for
Fortress
Krypton.
of Solitude.
No, this is Krypton.
Oh,
Griffin,
I'm sorry.
Jesus fucking Christ! You need to leave this podcast calling that the fucking Fortress of Solitude.
I'm sorry.
God,
This is
Oh,
Krypton.
I'm so mad. No, this
And
is Krypton.
It's called Krypton.
Huh?
Marlon Brando always says Krypton.
Krypton. So Ben, Superman is from a planet called Krypton, right?
Just so
Marlon
you know.
Brando calls it Krypton.
And they decide, in their infinite wisdom,
Mhm.
that there should be a big prologue, explaining the destruction of Krypton and where Superman came from. And they'll cast a big star to play Superman's dad, Jor-El. And they paid him $3.7 million and 11% of the box office, Griffin.
Yep.
So he made $19 million in 1978
Right.
for what is 10 minutes of screen time or whatever.
Yeah, I think it still is maybe the most someone's been paid relative to time on screen.
Right.
Yeah. If you break down how much he was paid like per second, per minute,
Famously, I love this scene so much.
it's so good.
So Brando famously, of course, said that why don't we have my character be a suitcase or a talking bagel?
Uh-huh.
And they instead are like, how about we have it be Marlon Brando?
How about if we're paying you $3.7 million, you need to show up on set?
Cue cards are all over the set because he refused to memorize his dialogue.
His whole performance is him looking off to the middle distance in different directions where different cue cards are.
And nonetheless,
He certainly has
Brando's really
gravitas.
good in this movie.
Yep.
It's kind of an iconic performance. This is a year before Apocalypse Now. And it's
Sure.
sort of like, it's the tail end of his post-Godfather boom with like
Mhm.
Last Tango in Paris and stuff.
Yeah.
Where it's like he's a really big actor again. And
Mhm.
Apocalypse Now is where Fat Brando becomes like what Brando is.
Yes.
Right. Like uncontrollable, bizarre, out of shape. This is the last time you can feel him kind of like
This is
kind of coming correct.
This is lazy, arrogant Brando still giving
Right.
you results.
He gets
And
results.
within 4 years, you're just like, I don't know what to do with this footage, right?
Blank Check with Griffin and David is hosted by Griffin Newman and David Sims. Our executive producer is me, Ben Hostley. Our creative producer is Marie Barty Salinas. And our associate producer is AJ McKeon. This show is mixed and edited by AJ McKeon and Alan Smithy. Research by JJ Birch. Our theme song is by Lane Montgomery and the Great American Novel, with additional music by Alex Mitchell. Artwork by Joe Bowen, Ollie Moss, and Pat Reynolds. Our production assistant is Minnick. Special thanks to David Cho, Jordan Fish, and Nate Patterson for their production help. Head over to blankcheckpod.com for links to all of the real nerdy shit. Join our Patreon, Blank Check Special Features, for exclusive franchise commentaries and bonus episodes. Follow us on social at Blank Check Pod. Subscribe to our weekly newsletter, Checkbook, on Substack. This podcast is created and produced by Blank Check Productions.